The epic begins with a showcase of the Kingdom of Earth, a powerful kingdom located in the north. We see a group of guards inspecting the city, where one guard warns his colleague that the kingdom is currently stable, but rebels might emerge at any time. His colleague agrees, saying they could face a crisis if this happens. The first guard reassures him that they're weak rebels, and they'll deal with them easily when they show up. His colleague tells him to calm down. Maybe the rebels have realized the value of the peace and quiet that exists, and won't revolt against the kingdom again. The other adds that it's also possible that the kingdom's knights managed to eliminate them secretly. We then move to a secret hideout beneath the capital, where the rebels gather with their leader, who addresses them firmly. Get ready. Tonight we attack the palace, kill the emperor, and take control of the kingdom again. The leader warns them against failure, confirming this is the only way to save the kingdom. One of them asks, what happens after? The leader reassures him and speaks to one of the knights present, addressing him, your role is the most important in this operation. It becomes clear that the knight's name is Logan Myclean, and the leader tasks him with stealing the secret text and protecting it with all his strength. Logan assures him he'll do everything he can. After leaving the meeting, one of his colleagues comes to tell him he's an extremely sacrificial person. Logan asks what he means, and he replies that many have died trying to steal the secret text from the kingdom's treasure chamber, and even if he succeeds in stealing it, he'll become a target for everyone on the continent who wants to get their hands on it. He wonders why Logan accepted such a dangerous mission, and Logan responds saying, it's like you think I volunteered willingly, but the truth is I was ordered to do it. His colleague adds that he knows the main reason for choosing him is that he's fluent in ancient languages, yet he's taking more risks than everyone else. But Logan asks him to stop comparing sacrifices, telling him his joining the rebels wasn't for his desire for heroism, but for revenge. We then discover Logan's past. He was a weak noble of no value to the point that he was defeated by his younger brother in a duel and humiliated, while his brother had only started learning sword fighting 3 years earlier, yet easily defeated him. From then on, he was called the failed older brother, who didn't deserve his family or the family throne, and was described as a disgrace to them. Later, a big problem erupted between him and his patriarch father as a result of poisoning his little brother Ronan, so his father's anger intensified and threatened to kill him if Ronan didn't survive the poison's effects, then expelled and banished him from the family because of his inferiority complex that made him a danger to his younger brother, and no family member gave him a helping hand after that. Logan was forced to leave noble life and join mercenaries to be able to survive. After 10 years of wandering and mercenary life, he finally realized how vile he was, so he decided to return to his family to apologize, but found it was too late, as the family was completely destroyed. While leaving the city, he heard about a public execution being carried out without caring, until he learned that his brother Ronan was the one to be executed. Logan was shocked and rushed to witness it, believing what happened occurred because his brother tried to defend the kingdom and the royal family, but the royal family fled and left him to bear responsibility alone. But when Logan reached the execution square, he found himself too late, as Ronan had already been executed, and he witnessed soldiers mocking his brother in front of everyone despite his service and dedication in protecting them. That's when Logan decided to take revenge on everyone who caused his brother's and family's tragedy. We return to the present, where we see Logan fleeing after stealing the secret text from the royal palace, with guards chasing him until he reaches a dead end and realizes he's in trouble. One guard attacks him, so Logan quickly confronts him and takes him down, then uses his strength to forcefully push one away from him and kills another with his sword, while a third attacks him, so he dodges and throws him to the ground with a blow to the head. Then another guard appears behind him, but Logan beats him to the attack and kills him too, challenging everyone to attack him, confirming he won't spare any of them. At that moment, a larger number of guards arrive and surround him, demanding he hand over the secret text immediately, but he laughs as if mocking them and declares he's about to die and has no choice but to fight, then takes out the magic bombs he had hidden beforehand, saying he'll definitely die, but he'll take them with him. The soldiers are stunned and try to stop him, but Logan blows up the entire place. Logan falls into a coma, and his life begins passing before his eyes. He admits he finally reached the end of his life after living a lifetime full of failure and revenge, noting that the only thing that satisfies him is that he succeeded in destroying the royal palace before his death. He admits he was a fool who lived his whole life, regretting that he never got a chance to apologize to his family ever. Logan wonders what he would do if he met his family again, and what would happen if he woke up afterward in a strange place. He feels a great shock, and wonders what's happening and why he feels this strong headache, but he's surprised wondering how he feels pain, even though he thought he was dead. At that moment, one of the servants appears and asks Logan about his condition. So Logan is amazed and says this is his servant, Rick. Rick finds this strange and asks if he doesn't know his servant. Logan's amazement increases, and he says, but Rick died 30 years ago, so how is he still alive? Rick is shocked by his words and says, "That's impossible," then calls the servants and asks them to bring the doctor immediately, believing Logan's injury affected his mind, saying he must be treated right away. Logan remains stunned by what's happening and starts observing the place, seeing the training yard outside the palace as well as his family's emblem everywhere, so he whispers, "This is impossible, I must be dreaming." At that moment, Logan's younger brother, Ronan, arrives and asks if he's okay. Logan is shocked upon hearing Ronan's voice and tells himself, "Impossible, this is my little brother Ronan's voice." Ronan feels scared and asks Logan again if he's okay. Logan remembers this scene well and tells himself, "This happened after the first duel between us. After he defeated me in that humiliating duel, Ronan came to check on me, but I harshly rejected him and ordered him to disappear from my sight, and told him he's not my brother because his mother is just a mistress to our family." He remembers how Ronan always followed him and did everything he asked, but that day their relationship ended completely. Logan starts suffering from severe headaches because of what he's going through. Rick tells Ronan he should come back later as his brother needs rest. Logan insists he stays and says he wants to talk to him. Rick is amazed by his behavior, so Logan invites him to come closer to talk to him. Ronan apologizes to Logan and says he should have been more careful in their duel. Then Logan bursts into tears and apologizes to Ronan about his fate. So Ronan is amazed and asks if he's okay. Logan tells him that through his stupidity, he lost the most loving person to him, and that Ronan died tragically in his previous life. He approaches Ronan and apologizes to him profusely for all his harsh behavior, so Ronan is surprised and asks if he's okay. Logan replies that he's fine and tells him he just loves him. Then after a while, Ronan bids him farewell and tells him he'll visit him again tomorrow, so Logan replies that he'll keep waiting for him. Logan remains amazed by what's happening and wonders if it's just a dream or if he really went back in time. He says it doesn't matter. As long as he's back, he'll change everything and prevent his family's destruction. Suddenly he hears the maid screaming, and Logan wonders why she's apologizing, so Rick comes and apologizes to him, saying that the maid Mary interrupted his rest and didn't realize he needed quiet, and asks him to forgive her. Logan remembers his previous cruelty with the servants and tells Rick that Mary didn't make a mistake and asks him to bring lots of papers and a pen immediately. Rick is shocked and asks, does he intend to punish her with papers and pen? Logan answers, "Stop being stupid. I'll let her go, and I need the papers and pen to write something important." Rick hurries to bring the papers and pen, then Logan tells him to leave him alone. Rick is surprised and says Logan thanked him, considering it impossible, and continues asking, "Did you hit your head or what's wrong with you?" Logan curses him and asks him to leave, so Rick feels relieved and says, as long as he cursed me, then he's fine. Logan remains shocked, thinking about how bad-tempered he was in his previous life that everyone became so afraid of him, saying he must fix his mistakes before they get worse. He says the most important thing now is to record everything he remembers from future events, so he doesn't forget them, as there's a devastating war that will happen against the Empire in 10 years and will destroy his family and the entire kingdom during it. He starts writing down all his information, remembering that a smaller war will break out after a year called the Vedum War, and it will cause the destruction of part of his family, so he must prevent it from happening. After that, he goes to the Patriarch, where the servants tell him that his son Logan wants to meet him, so the father is amazed and wonders what he wants from him. We move to Logan, who leaves his room heading to meet his father, and as soon as the servants see him, they get terrified and run away so he won't hurt them. One of the maids falls from sheer fear, thinking he'll kill her because of her mistake, but he approaches her and asks if she's okay and offers to help her, so she's surprised and thanks him, but she gets more frightened when she sees his terrifying smile and keeps begging him to forgive her and confirms she's ready to do anything so he won't kill her. Logan is amazed and wonders why everyone is terrified of him, realizing they're still afraid because of his previous cruelty, and decides to gradually change his behavior with them to gain their trust again. He looks at his face in the mirror and says he'll smile at them more to reassure them, but quickly realizes his smile is truly terrifying. Logan then heads to meet his father, feeling deeply sad and remembering the last words his father said to him when he kicked him out. "You are no longer my son." Logan had lived his life hating his father, believing he was too harsh. He hadn't even bothered to visit him after his injury from the duel with his brother, but he finally realized he might have been wrong. No father would treat his son harshly without reason. He must have been sadder than Logan after throwing him out. Logan meets his father and tells him he came to ask for something. When his father responds, Logan starts changing how he treats him, which his father notices, prompting him to ask, "What do you want?" We learn that his father is Baron Patrick. Logan says his father is treating him harshly as usual, and he didn't expect anything less. Then he tells him he wants permission permission to train in the isolated area of the family's land. The father is surprised by his request and asks why. Logan answers that he needs to win the war, and the best way to do that is to become stronger alongside all the family forces. But he explains that strengthening the army and providing better equipment needs money, and there's a problem. Their family is noble but broke and famous for being poor, with people calling them the beggar family. He adds that he has a plan, where an important event will happen 3 months from now that will allow him to make lots of money for his plan, but before he does that, he needs to become stronger so his father will believe him first. Patrick, Logan's father, asks if he wants to run away from the castle because of his recent loss to his younger brother. Logan answers, that's not the reason, he just knows his strength is lacking, and he decided to increase it through training. Patrick replies that his strength isn't the only thing he's missing, and it seems he hasn't fully matured yet. Logan feels his father still doesn't trust him and tells him that's natural. He adds that he knows he made mistakes and hurt his family a lot, but he wants one last chance. Patrick says he's heard this excuse many times before and asks him to leave. Logan apologizes to his father and admits he realizes his actions were the reason for his father's hatred toward him. Instead of acknowledging his lack of strength, he kept taking out his anger on everyone around him, even his family. He apologizes again and asks for one last chance, assuring him he'll make him proud. The father is surprised and says this time he seems sincere, asking how long he plans to train. Logan answers, 3 months. The father asks if he can reach his younger brother's strength in such a short time. Logan replies that he's not training to defeat his brother, but to become stronger for himself. The father laughs, saying, "It seems you really have changed. I'll allow you to do what you want." Logan thanks him and is about to leave when his father advises him to be careful because the training area is cold at this time and he might get sick. Logan is surprised because it's the first time his father has cared about his safety, and he responds, "Alright." After a few days, Logan arrives at the family's private training area. He says this place is reserved for family members only, so no one will interrupt him. He confirms that secrecy is important to him. He doesn't want anyone to discover his training method. Then he pulls out papers he wrote on and says these are the sword secrets that he had memorized in his previous life before they were burned so the Empire couldn't exploit them. He mentions that the original book bears the drawing of a golden hawk, symbol of the first hero who protected the kingdom and killed the evil dragon. He laughs, saying no one else in the world can read this book, only he knows its codes. He tells himself that if he learns the techniques from this book, he'll possess the aura and no swordsman or wizard in the kingdom will be able to stand against him. He admits that in his previous life, he couldn't learn from the book because it was too late, but now the situation is different. He starts with the body modification technique to change his body's composition before learning the other techniques, remembering that if he had tried this in his previous life, he would have died instantly, but his body is young now, and the situation is completely different. He says he believes building the core in his body will take 3 full days, then he'll start modifying the rest of his body, but he's surprised that the core has already started forming. Logan is amazed. He barely started the technique, yet the core is forming quickly, and his heart has also started pumping great power to the core. He's extremely happy and says he's very lucky. Then he grabs the sword and tries one of the secret sword techniques, wondering if those techniques are actually real. He's shocked when a massive aura comes out of the sword during the attack, realizing that his body, strength, and everything has started changing, and that his body was ready for this transformation. He's amazed at how quickly his core formed, and is confident that if he continues at this rate, he'll become very strong after 3 months. He continues training for 3 months until he reaches the last day. He stands in front of a huge tree and says he'll try one of the 10 brothers techniques from the secrets book, a technique that can cut through dimensions, suitable for him now since he only has 1 core. He uses the cutting destruction strike and attacks the tree. The technique severely drains him, and when he finishes, he wonders what he did, then is surprised that he succeeded in cutting the tree completely. He feels overwhelming happiness and says he finally succeeded, and his current strength exceeds everything he ever imagined despite being a beginner. He says he now needs to show his training results to his father so he'll trust him. He goes to meet his father, but the guard stops him and says he can't meet him. Logan asks why, and the guard answers that family rules require asking for permission first before meeting the father, so he won't allow him to enter. Rick adds that these rules were established long ago. Logan comments that he had met his father 3 months ago without permission in the first place. This guard tells Logan he'll punish the guard who allowed him to meet the patriarch without prior permission. Logan feels angry and says this never happened in his previous life, and keeps hearing the servants' voices as they watch what's happening. Logan then realizes his core has heightened his senses. The guards and servants continue mocking Logan, saying, "The failure is back again, and we thought he had run away after losing to his little brother." Logan realizes his reputation has gotten worse in his absence to the point where even the guards guards mock him. The guard orders him to leave and ask for permission before returning. Logan says he was planning to show his strength gradually, but it seems they'll force him to show all his power at once. Logan asks the guard his name, and he answers that his name is Damon. Logan tells him that what he did is an insult to him, in addition to preventing him from meeting his father, so he should be punished. Damon is surprised by Logan's words and says, "This insolent one is trying to use his authority against me." Logan throws his glove in Damon's face, saying he challenges him to an official duel. Everyone is shocked by his action, wondering what crazy Logan is doing, as no one sees a way for him to win, especially after losing to his little brother. How can he face a knight immediately? They confirm they don't think he'll last more than a minute in the duel. Logan hears everything, so he feels angry and says he needs to teach them their place. Damon tells Logan he seems confident and wants to reassure him that he won't hurt him too much. Logan laughs, seeing that Damon is actually afraid of him because he's just a weak member of the family he serves, with low status. Rick and the servants watch what's happening, confirming that Logan is crazy, there's no chance for him to win, and if he's killed, everyone will be dismissed from their service. The referee asks the duelers to prepare using only wooden swords to preserve their safety. He asks Logan if he's sure about wanting to duel, and Logan replies, "Of course we should start now." The referee becomes worried and says injuring Logan would be a disaster and everyone would blame him. The wooden swords won't kill him but could lead to serious injuries. At that moment, he announces the start of the duel and hopes Damon will deal with Logan easily. As soon as the duel begins, Damon releases his aura, and the spectators are puzzled, wondering why he needs to use his aura against someone like Logan. Rick is amazed and says Logan getting hit by this aura could be a big problem. As for Logan, he says their talk about Damon's aura strength would be believable if he didn't know its secrets. The knight's aura leaks from his body because he can't control it, so he's actually a failed knight. Logan addresses Damon, saying his anger is obvious, and asks if he fears defeat against him. Damon becomes angrier and says, "This lowlife is accusing me of being weak and old." He remembers his painful past with his mercenary group where he was the weakest among them, leading to his dismissal from the group. He tried to appear uncaring then, but now, faced with Logan, he's furious at being reminded of his past. Damon attacks Logan angrily, saying, "How dare you call me a weak old man?" Rick screams at the referee to stop him because he'll kill Logan, but the referee replies he can't stop the duel since Logan agreed to the challenge. Damon tells Logan he was planning to retire from being a knight, but now he'll make him retire too. But Logan doesn't move from his spot, calling Damon stupid, then uses the triple sword technique, deflecting his attack and hitting him all over his body. Damon suffers and falls to the ground. Logan mocks him, asking if that was his maximum strength he was talking about, adding that he should have retired long ago, given his level of weakness. Everyone remains stunned. No one saw what happened during Logan's attack. Someone says, "That's not important now. Focus on Logan, he's using aura, and that's impossible." Logan calls out to the referee and asks him to give Damon a second chance to complete the duel against him. The referee is surprised and asks Damon for his opinion, but Damon doesn't respond and remains stunned, saying, "What happened? I was defeated by the weakest person in the kingdom. This is impossible." Damon releases his aura again, trying to attack Logan fiercely, confirming that he won't let this happen. Logan notices that Damon has started using the rage ability with his aura, and says that by doing so, he's putting dangerous pressure on his body. Logan pounces on him to stop him, aiming his wooden sword at Damon's head and hitting him with a decisive move. Damon was shocked and says impossible, and Logan says he gave that bastard a chance, but it's clear he doesn't deserve it. He adds, "It doesn't matter. I'm not free to deal with him, and now it's time to end this battle." He turns to Damon and asks him to get ready, so Damon announces his surrender, but Logan strikes him hard with his sword. Logan says, "I can't deal with these bastards with mercy as long as they try to rebel against me. I have to scare everyone here, and I'll punish him to be a lesson for everyone." Logan starts hitting Damon repeatedly with his sword, while Damon is shocked and begs him for mercy, but Logan doesn't stop. Rick and all the attendees are stunned and say, "Impossible. We should stop him, but we're afraid of him." As for the knights, they exchange amazed looks, saying that Logan succeeded in just 3 months in reviving his family and became very strong and a terrifying person, and they wonder how much stronger he'll become in the coming period. After Logan finishes beating Damon, the referee announces his victory in the duel, and Logan warns everyone saying, "This is the fate of anyone who thinks of rebelling." The events continue with Logan going to talk to his father. Patrick tells his son that he never imagined he could defeat Damon like this, or awaken his power and aura in such a short time, describing him as impressive and asking how he managed to strengthen himself so quickly. Logan is surprised and realizes that his father was watching his duel, and tells him that he gave up all his greedy feelings and focused only on training, and then his power and aura began to awaken completely on their own. Logan explains that anyone who hears his story will will think he's making up tales, but it's the truth. It's the same way he awakened his power and aura in his previous life after losing everything, and he adds that he achieved the impossible then, and was the first person to awaken his power after the age of 40. Patrick responds, admitting that Logan has indeed changed and risen in power, but he also calls him stupid, and asks why the first thing he did after awakening his power was to torture the family guard and humiliate him in front of everyone. Logan answers that the guard was really a bastard and deserved punishment, and Patrick confirms that he heard the story from the other guards and knows the guard was wrong, but he didn't have to torture him after defeating him. Logan defends himself, saying he had to punish him, so Patrick asks him why. Logan explains that the bastard insulted the noble aura, and thus insulted the Baron's entire name, and if he left him unpunished, the other guards and servants would copy him. He says that any noble family like theirs has a hierarchical system, and the guards and servants form the foundation stone, and if this foundation collapses, the entire family would be destroyed. Logan adds, based on his experience as a mercenary in his previous life, that he learned one rule, which is to control his followers with force, and that he must always show his strength so they don't rebel, and this is the most important system among noble families. Patrick agrees that Damon made a mistake in dealing with him and didn't perform his duty, but he confirms that he didn't have to punish him so harshly and advises him to control himself in the future. Logan is shocked when his father forgives him easily and asks if he wants to punish him, so Logan responds negatively and wonders at the ease of his forgiveness. Patrick says he understands his reasons but won't allow him to repeat such behavior in the future, and that he must be more careful, especially since he hasn't yet obtained his noble rank in the barony or the kingdom, and any reckless behavior might cost him dearly. Logan responds with agreement, so Patrick says good to him, then adds as he remembered, your fiancée Rina will arrive today for a visit. Logan is surprised and laughs, saying that Rina has finally arrived, considering her the cash cow that will solve all their financial problems. We see Rina arriving with her guards to Logan's castle to meet with them. When Rina enters the castle to meet Patrick and his family, all the guards and servants are amazed by her and say that Logan is very lucky, as she's the most beautiful person they've ever seen. Rina asks Patrick about his news, and says it's been a long time since they last talked, so Patrick welcomes her and expresses his amazement at her increasing beauty. While Rick watches Rina, he confirms to himself the truth of Patrick's words, and notices that she has become much more beautiful than the last time they saw her, and comments that Logan is certainly happy about that now, but he's surprised that Logan is not interested in what's happening, so Rick is amazed and says, why doesn't he look happy? Rina tells Patrick that she will read him her father, the Count's letter that she brought with her. Rina starts reading it, and everyone is shocked because the letter is so long that it took half an hour, and they say it's more like a speech than a letter. Rina reaches the most important point in her reading, and informs Patrick that her father wants to break off the engagement between her and Logan, and conveys the letter as an official request from the Count, and asks Patrick for his opinion. Logan says that the Count sent a long letter this way to hide his intentions about breaking off the engagement, but the real reason is that Count Kieran thought Logan had become an aura user, but news reached him that he hadn't awakened his aura yet, and that Kieran was planning to control him to strengthen his family. But if Logan remained without an aura, he would look for another husband for his daughter, and he speculates that his father won't accept this easily. Indeed, Patrick suddenly gets angry and starts breaking furniture and asks Rina if her family is trying to insult his family, and everyone is shocked and says that things are starting to get out of control. Rina tries to calm Patrick down, explaining that she came herself as an envoy to clarify the letter and try to remove any misunderstanding. She tells him that she keeps beautiful memories with Logan as her favorite childhood friend, and that she didn't want to stay away from him, but she's forced to carry out her father, the Count's decision. She came herself to apologize and ask for forgiveness, and everyone is shocked by her words, and they say she's really wronged. Logan says to himself that this impudent girl is still lying and deceiving as usual. Patrick's wife, Marion, gets angry and asks Rina about the reasons that drove her family to try to break off the engagement with Logan, and insists on knowing the truth. Rina is surprised by her reaction and realizes that she couldn't deceive her. Logan points out that this is his father's wife, the mother of his half-brother Ronan, and that his relationship with her is bad, as she was always seeking for her son to be the successor in the family instead of him. He didn't expect her to intervene in this matter, but it seems that Rina's words insulted the entire family. Rina apologizes to Marion and says that her father didn't tell her the reasons. Marion responds that this is obvious lying, as they can't break off the engagement without knowing the motives. Rina responds that her role in the family is to marry someone else, and that's why her opinion isn't taken on anything, even regarding marriage, so the decision of her marriage is not in her hands. Marion says she continues to lie, and that her presence now only to break off the engagement without reason is considered an insult to the family, and they won't accept that. Rina is shocked and says she doesn't know the reasons, except that her family is prepared prepared to pay 3 million gold coins as compensation for breaking off the engagement on their part. Baron Patrick's financial manager is shocked by the huge amount and says, "Impossible, it's a huge amount and will help us a lot." Logan laughs to himself and says they've reached the moment he was waiting for, as he wanted the money for his upcoming projects. But he's surprised when he sees his father being fanatical, releasing his aura and shouting in Rena's face, "How dare you talk to my family this way?" Everyone is affected by Patrick's aura power, so Rena's guard tells her to hide behind him and that he'll protect her with his strength. Guard Fern approaches Patrick and begs him to calm down and hear them out, and confirms that they don't mean to insult him. Patrick is amazed by Fern's strength despite his young age, and tells him that he'll duel him himself and hurt him so as to prevent him from serving the Kirin family again as compensation for the insult. Fern is surprised by the challenge, so Rena protests and confirms that they never meant any insult, and the compensation is only to express apology, and asks him to accept the apology to preserve the alliance relationship between the two families and prevent enmity. Patrick shows his extreme displeasure and says that Count Kirin is a coward who sent 2 children instead of coming himself, because if he came himself he would have punished him. As for them, he can't do anything to them because his honor prevents him from hurting guests, and says that his only compensation is for Rena herself to apologize to Logan for breaking off the engagement. Everyone sees that this is expected from Baron Patrick, as his honor comes before all considerations. Then Logan interrupts his father, saying, "I'm actually the main victim of this matter and I have a request." He says this moment is crucial, as he needs the money for their family's future, wondering at his father's madness in refusing 3 million gold coins while they're bankrupt. He explains that the family is now living only with the support of Patrick's wife's family, Marion, and if the support stops, they'll collapse completely. He adds, "This isn't honor but humiliation, and I won't let my father's values throw the family into ruin again. I must do everything I can to save them." Then he says he would like to accept the Kirin family's compensation and take the money. Patrick is shocked and unleashes his power again, asking Logan if he's gone insane and how he can ask him to back down from his decision. Logan feels his father's immense power and admits to himself that his father is truly strong, but he's not terrifying compared to whoever threatens the family's future, so he has to endure his father's power and force him to accept the money. Patrick stops his aura and says, "Our family isn't poor enough that we need to beg for money like this and throw away our honor. You're out of your mind." Logan replies, "Are you talking about some other family? Our family is completely bankrupt." Patrick asks what he means by that. Logan explains that their family owes the royal bank 3 million gold coins. They pay 150 zero coins annually in interest, and if it weren't for the support of his stepmother's family, they would have been kicked out of the kingdom long ago. All the nobles secretly call them the beggar noble family. Logan was about to continue mocking, but he stops and says the meeting is secret, and this talk shouldn't be mentioned in front of guards and guests, and he'll respectfully convey his opinion to his father. And Logan says, "The real reason we're accepting the 3 million is that our dignity was insulted, and we need compensation to prove our honor and return the insult." Patrick asks what that has to do with honor, so Logan replies that the Count's family has higher status than them and is part of the Northern Kingdom, and they granted them the title of Marquis there, making them subjects of another kingdom rather than their own. He says he fears rumors will spread in the kingdom that they knelt to a more powerful family and accepted their terms without compensation because of pressure from another kingdom. Reyna said her family isn't a harmful family, and they never insulted the McLean family's honor or pressured them, but were always supportive and showed complete respect for them. But Logan replies that she came to break off the engagement for no reason, so she has no right to talk about respect, confirming that her family insulted his family this time. Logan reflects to himself that in his previous life he had believed Reyna and been deceived by her. She had told him then that she didn't want to break off the engagement, that she still loved him, and even asked him to run away with her against their family's wishes, inviting him to meet in her room at night. But when he went to her, she suddenly attacked him and tried to kill him, then laughed at him and asked if he really believed she could fall in love with someone pathetic and weak like him. He tried to ask her what she meant, but she started screaming in the castle for help. And when the guards came to ask her, she accused him of trying to assault her. At that time, no one believed him, not even his family, so they had to apologize to Count Kirin's family and pay them large compensations. Logan feels extreme anger, as he remembers how he lost trust in all the women of the world because of her, and considered them all treacherous, and remained convinced that Reyna came this time to execute the same plan, or to make his family accept the cancellation without compensations. He laughs sarcastically, and tells her that the fool she deceived in his previous life no longer exists. exists. He adds that when he came back in time, he intended to restore his honor and gain his family's recognition to win their trust, but he realized he was wrong and doesn't have time for such things. He says after his battle with Damon, he realized that the servants, guards, and his entire family don't respect him and deliberately insult and ignore him, and that trying to win these people's respect is a waste of time. He only has 9 months before the First Continental War breaks out, and he considers honor worthless now. What matters is saving his family. Therefore, he announces to Reina that he accepts their family's compensation of 3 million gold coins, regardless of his family's opinion, since he's the one actually harmed by breaking off the engagement. Reina is shocked by his agreement to the money, so Patrick gets angry and asks how he can disobey his will and insult their honor. Logan replies that he's not interested in honor that can be compensated with a ridiculous apology, explaining that if they accepted that pathetic apology, their honor would become worthless, and it's better for them to take financial compensation. Reina's shock and anger increase as she waits for Patrick's decision about the money. Logan says her father's offer of compensation was bold because her father was sure the Baron would refuse it, but Reina's shock lies in the fact that he agreed, which will cost them dearly. Then Patrick says that a sincere apology satisfies his anger as head of the family, but this problem concerns Logan originally, so he gives him the final decision about accepting or refusing the compensations. Marion is surprised and asks Patrick what he's doing. Meanwhile, Reina gets heated and considers that her father handed her over to Logan again, and Patrick warns his son that he must think carefully. If he accepts money in exchange for his insult, he'll find himself receiving insults from everyone with money in the future. Logan apologizes to his father and acknowledges that his words are correct, but not in their current circumstances. Logan announces to Reina that he represents the McLean family in the engagement matter, accepts her family's compensation of 3 million gold coins, and demands she prepare to transfer the amount. Marion is amazed by his behavior and laughs at his new firmness, while Reina gets heated and feels she fell into his trap. Patrick leaves them and says Logan hasn't changed for the better but for the worse, admitting that his failure to raise his son with the meaning of honor is the reason for what he's become. Logan apologizes again to Patrick, saying that the family's survival remains more important than its honor. After a day passes, Logan receives the money from Reina and her family, feeling overwhelming happiness because it's the first time he's held 3 million gold coins in his life, saying he'll deposit the money immediately in the bank to invest it in future projects for his family. But soon the family's financial manager, Dwayne, arrives and asks to speak with him. Logan thinks to himself that Dwayne is the person his father trusts most, and he only came to him now because of the smell of gold. Wondering about his motives and plan, Dwayne says laughing that he suffered a lot as financial manager of a bankrupt family and always had to handle the guards and servants' needs with a pathetic budget. He was known in his homeland as a great financial manager, but when he moved to a bankrupt family, his reputation was ruined. Now he has the opportunity to live comfortably for at least 3 years with the money that stupid Logan obtained. Dwayne laughs and confirms he'll force Logan to share the money with the family treasury. Then Dwayne starts being hypocritical, saying he came to congratulate him and express his pride, since he stood up to the Kieran family without yielding to the Baron's pressure. So he decided to support him to be the family's next successor, because he's someone who knows how money's importance exceeds anything else. Dwayne kept laughing as he said, "If you were going to accept all this praise, you'd really be stupid and wouldn't suspect my intentions." Logan asked if he only came to interrupt his thoughts with this silly talk. Dwayne was amazed. "Why weren't you affected by my words?" Then he explained that he actually came to ask for his help. The 3 million gold coins Logan possesses could help the family greatly. He realized what Logan did was for the family's benefit, and he has a desire to pay off their accumulated debts. Logan replied, "I don't know what you're talking about. This money is mine and doesn't belong to the family." Dwayne was shocked and said, "Impossible. I wasn't expecting this behavior." He was amazed by Logan's intention to use the money for himself and leave the family drowning in debt. He was very angry, then tried to calm down and started recalling memories of begging the Kiros family, Marion the Baron's wife's family, to get some money because of constant bankruptcy. He told himself he got used to begging and would have to do it now with Logan too, then started crying in front of him. Logan was surprised by Dwayne's behavior and asked if the family's financial situation was difficult enough to make him cry like this. Dwayne confirmed this, explaining that their family owes the royal bank 3 million gold coins, and the interest alone amounts to 150 zero coins annually. Logan told him he knows all this, so what's the need to explain the details? Dwayne was amazed and asked, "Since you know, why won't you help us?" Logan replied that harvest season in the barony is approaching, and the return from it will be enough to pay this year's interest. Dwayne was surprised and asked where he got all this information from. Dwayne explained that managing the barony costs expenses beyond the debt, the budget is in a very weak state, and asked Logan to help them with any amount. Logan answered with refusal. Dwayne was astonished and asked why. He said he thought Logan disobeyed the Baron for the barony's benefit. Logan confirmed this, so Dwayne said, "Then you're surely a good successor. How much will you give us?" Logan replied that he won't give them anything, but he explains that he really intends to support them, but not by handing over the money to be wasted like every year. Instead, he'll invest it in future projects that benefit the family and prevent falling into crises again. Dwayne was surprised and said, "This isn't the selfish Logan I used to know. Just a few days ago you were a child who didn't care about the family's fate even if it was destroyed, and I can't believe you changed so suddenly like this." Logan answered that he needs to focus with him now, because he needs him for some matters, in exchange for partial support to pay debts as Dwayne wants. Dwayne asked about the nature of the services he's requesting. Logan said he needs him to gather a group of mercenaries and bring them to his location. Afterwards, Logan starts preparing himself for a new journey, while Rick was shocked and asked him, "Are you sure you're going on that trip when you've barely returned from hard training?" Logan replied that he needs to collect a lot of money. Rick said in amazement, "You already have a lot of money. I don't understand why you want more." Logan told him the money they have isn't enough, and he needs 3 or 4 times this amount. Rick said it's impossible for his father to accept this request, especially since the atmosphere in the castle is tense after the Count Kirin problem. Logan told him he realizes this, and that's why he plans to escape from the castle without anyone knowing. Rick was shocked and said, "What are you saying? This can't be done. It affects the family's honor." Logan replied that his honor is already lost and he doesn't intend to fix it, but seeks to save the family, which is more important now. Logan explained his plan to Rick about forming a team of mercenaries and soldiers to join the family forces. He considered himself lucky since he'd spent most of his previous life as a mercenary and knew the strongest elements among them. The first thing he'd do was search for the most important person in his plan. He alone was capable of executing the remaining details. Rick asked Logan to reconsider his decision, as his escape would be extremely dangerous for his reputation. Logan said he'd made his decision and no one could stop him. Rick stood in front of the door saying, "If you're determined to run away, you'll have to step over my dead body first." Logan approached him trying to push him away from the door, so Rick got scared and asked if he was going to do it brutally. Logan replied by asking him to calm down, because he'd leave a message for his father so he wouldn't worry about him or blame anyone if he disappeared. Rick was surprised and asked what he'd write in the message, as its content might anger his father. After Rick gave Logan's letter to his father Patrick, he discovered it said his heart was broken because of the broken engagement with Rena, and he would travel a bit to ease his pain and return later. Rick was shocked by the letter's content and said it was provocative and completely unconvincing. Patrick was extremely angry and said, "I'm going to kill that bastard," while Rick wished Logan would return quickly before they all died from his father's intense rage. Then we moved to Logan, who talked about his family, saying that 200 years ago they weren't in this difficult situation. The family's first leader was able to create enormous power for the family, to the point where they were considered equivalent to a complete duchy. But after that, 3 failed leaders succeeded each other and made the duchy split and lose titles until they ended up with the Baron title. The entire duchy was divided among the branch families, which are now stronger than the main family itself. Logan mentioned that his barony has no natural resources or wealth mines to support the economy, and they depend entirely on farming poor land. He added that even if they won the war, there was no escaping asking for major aid from the Kairos family, so to ensure he wouldn't need their help in the future and the family would have independence in its decisions, he needed much more money than the 3 million he'd already obtained. Logan then arrived at the commercial city of Kyle, saying there was someone here who would help him gather the required money. Upon entering the city, vendors crowded around him trying to convince him to buy their goods, so he noticed this city's trade exceeded his barony's trade by several times. He kept searching until he remembered an old memory that the person he came for lived here, so he asked the residents and they directed him to his location. The man he was looking for was called Golden Bug Philip. Logan explained that the most successful kingdom on their continent was the Kingdom of Iris, where any talented person could succeed, with no distinctions between nobles and common people, and they even welcomed talented foreigners. He gave the example of Golden Bug Philip, who left the Kingdom of Grandia and migrated to Iris, becoming its biggest weapons dealer, until he was accused of treason for helping Iris at Grandia's expense. But he saw this as a rumor spread by his original kingdom to destroy his reputation. In reality, Philip was one of the biggest financial supporters of the Kingdom of Grandia itself. While wandering the city, Logan encountered a small child crying, so he was puzzled and thought it was Philip himself because of his young age, and saw him cursing those who deceived him and carrying great worry about how he'd manage now. Logan remembered that Philip had indeed been scammed before moving to the kingdom of Iris. Philip began lamenting his luck and saying the only solution was to run away. So Logan approached him and asked if he was Philip Cloud. The child confirmed he was, and asked who he was, noting that Logan's appearance, his red eyes and hair were familiar to him, but he couldn't remember where he'd seen them. Logan said he needed his help and wanted to talk to him a bit. So Philip was puzzled and wondered about the type of service required. Philip sensed Logan's greed and said to himself that he knew this type of person well and thought he was a mercenary or gang member because of his appearance. And since he came to him by name, there was something serious going on. Logan intended to ask him to join him, but Philip started scolding him and talking about an installment payment that wasn't due yet, demanding Logan return after 3 days to solve the financial problem for him. Logan was puzzled by his words and clarified that he hadn't come to take an installment from him. Philip kept insisting on his position, so Logan said he came not to take money from him, but to give him money to invest with him. Philip was shocked and asked how he intended to invest it, so Logan said he'd invested in him and his projects. Philip was surprised and said if he didn't want money from him, he wasn't interested, and wondered what sane person would invest in a failure like him. Then Logan asked him how much he needed to pay off his debts, and he'd prepare the money immediately. But Philip started cursing Logan angrily, so Logan showed his surprise and asked about the reason for the cursing. Philip said Logan was trying to deceive him, and he was like the scammers who deceived him before, adding that the emblem on Logan's armor belonged to the McLean family from the east, and the family was known throughout the kingdom as a family of beggars, living thanks to Baron Patrick's wife's money. All the noble families in the kingdom treated them as if they were commoners and ordered him to leave immediately after he'd lost all his money, confirming he wouldn't be deceived again or allow any beggar like him to approach him. Logan was surprised by Philip's reaction, as he hadn't expected all this aversion from him despite the major crisis he was facing, and realized his family's reputation was indeed very bad, so he wondered to himself how he could convince him. Philip kept crying and complaining, saying, "How will I eat and drink now? I'm bankrupt. I'll become a beggar like the McLean family." So a good idea occurred to Logan to convince him quickly. Logan said to Philip, "I want to show you something." Philip thought Logan wanted to scam him again, but Logan brought out his aura and began displaying it powerfully in front of him. Philip was very amazed and said, "He can use aura. I thought he was a scammer, but a genius who awakened aura at this young age can't be a fraud." Philip quickly apologized to Logan and admitted he was wrong to judge him, then asked, "What exactly do you want me to work with you on?" Logan replied, "I want to employ you for life, and I'll pay off your debt first." Philip was puzzled and asked, "A lifetime job? I don't think the McLean family has that kind of money." Logan pulled out 300,000 gold coins for him, saying, "I'll pay you for your service in advance." Philip was stunned and said, "What's all this money?" Logan continued, "I'll give you another 200,000 after 2 years of service." Philip's amazement increased as he said, "I thought you were evil, but you came to save me." Then the two went to make the contract. The sorceress who attended the contract warned them that if Philip disobeyed Logan's orders or tried to harm him, he'd feel unbearable pain, and his only way to free himself from the contract was to become a knight who uses aura or pay 4 million gold coins to Logan as compensation. Philip was shocked. What a scary contract. The sorceress continued mocking him, saying it was better for him to follow orders now, since he was like a slave. Philip got angry and said she was an arrogant girl and he'd like to kill her. Then he wondered, what are Logan's real intentions for giving me this huge amount, while at the same time imposing such a harsh contract? Logan clarified that he shouldn't worry too much about his intentions, as they were now friends and business partners, and he just asked him to trust him. The matter seemed unimportant to Philip, and he asked, "What do you want me to do now?" Logan answered, "I need you first to buy me monster meat." Philip was amazed and asked, "Your requests are strange. Why monster meat?" Logan explained, "This meat, and monster blood, is usually burned without attention currently, but in the future, everyone will benefit from it as fertilizer for agricultural land to increase production, and even hunters in areas lacking regular meat have started eating monster meat and realized it's tastier than regular meat." He continued, "I'll exploit these monster products to become the richest, and through them I'll gather an additional 3 million gold coins." Philip was amazed by Logan's behavior and thought he'd prefer to run away from him if he wasn't in need of this money. The conversation between them continued, with Philip asking in shock, "How will you spend 1 million gold coins on monster meat?" "You're crazy," Logan answered. "Calm down. The price may seem high now, but the profits will be huge later." Philip said he didn't know exactly what Logan intended to do, but he was against this move. He added that the crack monster Logan wanted had no current value. And Logan said, "Crack monster meat is burned in the city because no one cares about it. We need this meat. I want you to announce that you'll buy the meat for transportation costs costs 200 coins, and the more hunters increase the number of crack corpses, the higher the price. Philip was puzzled and said, "Do you intend to monopolize crack monsters and sell them later if their price rises?" Logan replied, "That's the goal." Philip explained the plan was wrong. "You should go to the mercenary guild and request the meat from them. Instead of burning it, they can sell it to you for a lower price, and the guild might contact other branches in the kingdom to gather all the cheap crack corpses for you." Logan was impressed by Philip's idea and said, "You deserve what I paid you. This is a genius idea." Philip told him, "From now on, leave all business dealings to me since I'm your employee until death." Logan answered, "Fine." Then he gave him a huge list and told him to stay in Kyle City and buy the required quantities and store them. Philip was puzzled and asked him, "Are you planning to make children's toys from all these orders?" Logan said, "No, I'm going to make something better, and I can't tell you now, but I'll use them to make weapons." Logan said that the weapons he would make from those materials would be similar to those used by the Northern Empire in invading their kingdom, and that these weapons would make an ordinary soldier capable of facing an expert knight. He added that he would give these weapons to the mercenaries that Dowan would gather, and explained that he must first win the internal war before expanding his influence and protecting the entire kingdom. He mentioned that the most important step now was finding a suitable blacksmith to make the required weapons, in addition to an expert swordsman to train the mercenary forces he would use in the war. 2 days later, Logan went to Heron City, the mercenary center, and spoke with the mercenary Cylon, who was an A-rank knight, and asked him to train his forces. Cylon apologized, saying he had never trained anyone before, but Logan insisted that the task was simple, as he only needed to train C-level swordsmen, and that he knew well that Cylon had previously trained a small group of knights, although he denied being a good teacher and advised Logan to hire someone else. But Logan insisted, saying he knew his strength well and was his colleague in his previous life, and there was no weapon he didn't master, and this wasn't just his real advantage, but he was a genius trainer who produced an army of knights considered the strongest in the kingdom. Logan realized that Cylon didn't want to join him, so he decided to use every mercenary's weapon, money. He told Cylon he would give him a monthly salary of 4,000 gold coins. Cylon was shocked and said that the highest salary for a mercenary of his class was only 2,000 coins, and Logan was doubling it. Cylon tried to stick to his principles and said, "I shouldn't let money and greed control me." So Logan offered him 6,000 coins monthly, which increased Cylon's amazement, but he said he loved fighting more than training. Logan raised the amount to 7,000, so Cylon shouted, "I told you money isn't everything." Logan replied, 8,000 coins. Then Cylon quickly agreed, abandoning his principles and saying that money was indeed everything to him, and he bowed before Logan, declaring his complete loyalty, and pledged to serve him as long as he paid him wages. While they walked together, Logan asked Cylon if he wasn't curious to know the reason for serving in a poor area like his barony, so Cylon answered that he wasn't interested, as long as he got his wages, so Logan admired that mentality and commented, "I like people like you." During their walk, Logan saw a group of slaves being beaten by their trader, who threatened to kill them if they didn't move quickly. So Cylon told him that Heron City was famous for mercenaries and slave trade, and you'll see many of them here, and pointed to a large slave market in front of them that could be explored. Logan said he knew, and that he intended to return soon to buy one of the slaves as quickly as possible. One of the traders noticed him and underestimated him, thinking he was naive and could be exploited, so he offered to show him his slaves at cheap prices. Logan ignored him, while Cylon immediately looked at him angrily and threatened to cut off his head if he bothered them. The trader was terrified and said to himself, "What is Cylon doing here with this boy?" So Logan said he was lucky to hire Cylon as he would benefit him in places like this. Logan then arrived at a heavily guarded tent, so he said to himself that he thought this was the intended place. The owner of the place came out and asked Logan what he needed, so Logan answered that he wanted a dwarf blacksmith. The man said they owned the best dwarves and other races here. Upon entering, Logan saw 2 elves, and the old man said that finding elves was extremely rare and asked if he would like to buy one of them, but Logan told him he didn't want to talk much and wanted to see the dwarf blacksmith he had imprisoned. They brought out the dwarf and Logan was asked if he was sure of his choice, so he answered that he was sure. The old man said this dwarf was one of the best blacksmiths in the kingdom, and thus he could benefit greatly from him, and asked about the required price. The old man said his price would be high because the dwarf was one of their best slaves, so Logan replied not to worry and to mention the price. The old man showed surprise and claimed he would give him a discount since he was a nobleman, and asked for only 200,000 coins. Logan cursed him and accused him of trying to exploit him, so he offered to tell him a reasonable price, and after long negotiations the old man got fed up and said he would sell him the dwarf for only 50,000 coins. Logan paid the amount and took the dwarf and left. The old man angrily said to Logan, "It's better that I never see you here again. You're a stingy person." As for Cylon, he was amazed by Logan's skill in negotiating with an old trader like this, while the dwarf expressed his dissatisfaction, saying, "Humans are the worst creatures in this world. I deserve a much higher price than what you paid." Logan replied sternly, "Shut up. That was a fair negotiation. I'm a respectable man." Then the dwarf asked him about their destination. So Logan said, "We're now heading to McLean Barony to the east, and you'll only obey my orders from now on." So the dwarf answered, "All right." Logan contemplated the dwarf and said to himself, "Dwarves usually have a natural talent for blacksmithing, but slave dwarves are different. This dwarf didn't grow up in an environment that taught him the craft, but lived in prison and slavery, so I must encourage him to regain his skills." Then Logan turned to the dwarf and said, "You'll serve me for only 20 years. After that, I'll grant you your freedom and return you to your dwarf mountains. According to my information, 20 years is nothing for your race that lives for hundreds of years." The dwarf's face brightened, and he replied enthusiastically, "Really? Then you must not break your promise to me after 20 years." And Logan promised him that. Suddenly, Logan heard screaming in the market. "Stop those slaves! They're trying to escape." And he saw a boy running, carrying his sister and trying to escape with her quickly before being caught. But one of the guards ambushed them and knocked the boy to the ground. Then the slave trader appeared. He was injured, screaming, "You bastard, you bit me and hurt me. I'll teach you manners." And he engaged in beating the boy, while the child protected himself with his body to protect his little sister, assuring her, "Don't be afraid, I'm here." Logan stood watching the scene with annoyance. So Cylon asked him, "Shall we continue on our way or will you intervene? These are just slaves, and this happens every day." But Logan looked at the two children's eyes and found them blue and red, and he remembered those features well, so he was shocked and said, "It's Victor." Cylon was surprised and asked him, "Who are you talking about?" Logan explained to himself, "I never imagined I would meet the noble killer here. I heard in my previous life that he was a slave, then killed his master and all his guards and escaped, and no one could stop him, even the strongest swordsman. He disappeared for a while, then returned with terrible power and kept killing nobles until he terrorized the entire kingdom, and they called him the noble killer." Logan realized that Victor was supposed to escape from his master's house after a year when he becomes a mercenary, but now he was still young and could be controlled, and if he could get him to join his ranks, he would make a wonderful warrior. But there was one obstacle. This bastard was very difficult to control. At that moment, Victor violently attacked the slave trader and bit him again, so the trader was injured and exploded angrily, threatening him with severe punishment. Logan intervened in front of everyone and stopped the traitor with his sword. So the traitor screamed, "Who are you to stop me?" Logan appeared before him confidently and said, "Don't you see who's stopping you?" The traitor noticed the McLean family emblem on Logan's armor and quickly became confused and said apologetically, "Sorry, sir. I was just teaching my slaves manners. Is there anything I can serve you with?" Logan answered, "Yes, I want to buy these two children." The traitor was surprised and said, "These two children have rare eyes, so their price will be expensive for you." So Logan asked him about the price, and the traitor answered, 10,000 gold coins for each of them. Logan was surprised and said, "The price of a strong guard doesn't exceed 500 coins, so why should I pay 20,000 for two weak boys? This is madness." Then he continued sarcastically, "These children are worth less than even ordinary slaves, and it seems one of them is about to die." The traitor replied, "They are the only two children in the market right now." Logan said, "It doesn't matter. I'll give you a suitable price, 500 coins for each one." The traitor scoffed, "This amount isn't even enough to cover what I spent on them. I think you consider me stupid and don't know how things work in the slave market." The traitor grabbed his sword and asked Logan challengingly, "What do you think of my offer?" The traitor was surprised by Logan's position and said to himself, "What is this boy doing?" But Logan told him confidently, "These two slaves have caused you big problems, and they've escaped more than once. It's better for you to sell them immediately at this price." The traitor remained shocked for a moment, then agreed, saying, "All right, we have a deal." Victor suddenly regained consciousness to find himself carried on Cylon's shoulders, traveling with Logan and his companions. Cylon said, "I didn't think you'd wake up this quickly with your injuries." Logan answered, "He's truly a special child. Actually, I was healing him with aura while he slept, which is better than even intermediate healing magic." And he added, wondering to himself, "There's something strange. Why was his sister Mary able to see my aura despite her young age? Aura should be hidden from children. Even Cylon himself didn't feel it. Anyway, this matter isn't important now. I'll discover the reason later." Suddenly, Victor jumped from Cylon's back and rushed, attacking Logan while screaming, "I will kill you." But Logan dodged the attack, grabbed his hand and stopped him immediately. Victor screamed, "What are you doing?" But Logan grabbed him by the neck, released his terrifying aura in front of him, and then said in a sharp tone, tone. "Why do you think you're a hero or brave to this extent?" Mary panicked and screamed, "Leave him alone, please," while Victor urged his sister to flee, saying, "Run quickly, I'll keep them busy myself." Logan showed his full aura before him, saying, "Do you think I'm like those slave traders? I respect your fighting spirit, but you need to distinguish between friend and enemy, or you'll end up destroying yourself in the end." Then he continued in a serious tone, "This is your last chance. If you obey my orders completely, I'll guarantee your safety and your sister's. But if you try to rebel, I'll get rid of both of you." He threw Victor to the ground and said to him calmly, "I'm sure you understand my warning now. You're not stupid, keep that in mind." Logan continued, "If you listen to me, I'll turn you into a real knight, with power equal to the nobles. That way you'll be free from slavery forever, and you can protect your sister however you want." Victor looked at his sister and said enthusiastically, "All right, I agree. I'll obey your orders." Logan smiled and said, "You can count on me, and I'll never separate your sister from you. She's what keeps you from losing control. Get ready. As soon as we return to the castle, we'll start serious training." He then turned to the dwarf Mar and said to him, "I have an important task I want you to do." Mar wondered, "What is it?" Logan said, "I've prepared a contract for you. I want you to sign it." Mar was puzzled. "What contract?" Logan explained, "A magical contract stating that I'll grant you your freedom after 20 years of service, so you can return to the Dwarf Mountains." Mar was surprised and said, "Really? I thought you were just joking or making me a verbal promise only." Logan replied, "I never break my promises. So will you sign the contract?" Mar was delighted and said enthusiastically, "Of course I'll sign it." Logan smiled to himself and said, "My plan worked. This magical contract will motivate Mar to work hard and will push him to use all his talents." Thus, Logan finished his first mission in that city and was ready to return in preparation for the internal war. Then the scene shifted to the Myclean family castle, where servants and knights were spreading news of Logan's escape and mocking him, describing him as a coward. At the same time, Rick was wandering around the castle trying to stop the rumors, broken and wondering when that lunatic would return, as his life had become from worry and gossip. Logan finally returned to the castle, and Rick greeted him with unexpected joy, laughing and saying, "I didn't imagine you'd return this easily." Logan replied jokingly, "You must have suffered in my absence." Rick laughed and said, "Just look at my face and you'll know how much I suffered during the past days." Rick asked him impatiently, "And what were you doing outside the castle? The rumors have reached everywhere. One of them says you spent 150,000 coins buying beast meat to eat." Then the narrative returned to 2 days earlier with Philip, when he met with the mercenary guild and the kingdom's butchers, asking them for huge quantities of beast meat. Everyone was amazed. "Who's the lunatic who wants to buy all this amount of meat?" Philip answered them, "My lord Logan is the one who wants it." They were puzzled and said, "We heard about this master of yours. They say he tricked his fiancée and extracted 3 million gold coins from her. There's no way we can trust him." Philip felt disappointed, but decided to handle the situation and said to them, "I'll pay you 1 gold coin for every kilo of beast meat." They were all amazed, and this was the opportunity of a lifetime for them. So they confirmed their agreement immediately, and from here the rumor that Logan was obsessed with beast meat spread throughout the entire kingdom. The narrative returned to the present, and Logan was laughing as he remembered that, saying, "Philip must have done his job well. Even the rumors about my love for beast meat became famous like this." Rick looked puzzled and asked him, "Why are you laughing?" Logan pointed to the group he brought with him. "Look at them, afraid that someone will see them with me because of these ridiculous rumors." Logan reassured him that those rumors would disappear quickly, so Rick said, "But the patriarch, my father, is very upset about everything that happened, especially your escape. You need to face him soon." Indeed, Logan went to his father. Patrick received him with a stern face and said, "Did you enjoy your escape?" Logan replied steadily, "I wasn't running away, father. It was just an exploratory trip." Patrick answered, "Many rumors followed you, and it seems you really enjoyed that adventure." Logan replied smiling, "Just rumors, and I'm not sorry for any decision I made." Mariana was surprised by Logan's attitude and said to Patrick, "Logan's behavior is tarnishing the family's reputation. It's better to remove him from his position immediately." Logan replied calmly, "Enough. All I did was spend the engagement money that our family refused in the first place." Mariana became more angry and asked Patrick, "What do you intend to do with him? He should be punished." But Patrick ordered her to be silent, saying, "I asked you to leave. I want to talk to Logan alone." Mariana protested and asked him how he could continue trusting Logan after everything that happened. Patrick looked at his wife with a stern gaze and told her, "This is your last warning, Mariana. Only I have the right to deal with Logan's behavior, and I don't allow anyone, no matter who, to interfere between me and my son." Then he turned to Logan and asked him to speak frankly, as he was no longer able to understand what his son was thinking and wanted to hear from him directly without beating around the bush. Logan's features seemed reserved, as he realized the conversation between them was different different this time. But he answered calmly, "Even if I explained everything to you, father, you probably won't understand my intention right now. There are things you won't realize except with the passage of time." But Patrick insisted, saying in a tone of sincere fatherhood, "That's okay. Just let me hear you and try to understand your motives. And if I don't understand you completely, at least I'll give you a chance to explain your intentions." Patrick continued, "Are you aware of the size of the rumors that have been circulating about you throughout the entire kingdom? Everyone I meet talks about you, saying you're a violent young man, driven by madness, acting without thinking or wisdom." He raised his voice slightly and sighed. "I can no longer defend your actions in front of everyone, Logan, and I feel the weight of responsibility on me." Then he suddenly asked him, "If your mother, may she rest in peace, were with us today and saw your behavior, how do you think her opinion of you would be, Logan?" A feeling of nostalgia mixed with pain crept into Logan's heart, as he didn't remember his father opening a conversation with him about his mother since her death, not even when he banished him in his previous life. He wondered to himself, does this mean his father hasn't lost hope in him, and that he's trying to give him another chance? He sighed slowly and said to Patrick, "I want you to give me your trust for just 1 year, father. I'm not asking for much. After this year, you'll find the results of my work clear and apparent to everyone. If you feel after that you can't trust me, I'll leave the family myself, and this way we'll end all our problems and relieve everyone of this burden." Patrick's eyes showed real amazement at his son's words, and he stopped for a moment staring at him, then said in a low voice, "All right, Logan, we'll see." Patrick then withdrew to his room, finding himself drowning in a whirlpool of thoughts and questions for which he had no answer. He said to himself, "I never would have imagined that my son would come to ask me for such a strange request. But if Logan can't prove himself within a year, I'll honor my promise to him and banish him from the family permanently. Even though he's my only son, the family's interest comes above everything." Then Patrick looked at the room's ceiling and addressed his wife's spirit. "I apologize to you. This is the first time I admit that I can't understand what's going on in Logan's mind. I promised you I'd care for our son and look after him and protect him no matter what it cost me, but I wasn't always able to fulfill this promise." The scene shifted to Logan wandering around the castle until he met Ronald. Logan immediately noticed that Ronald had succeeded for the first time in summoning the aura within him, so he said, "Didn't the aura finally awaken, Ronald?" Ronald smiled proudly and said, "I did it just to get your recognition of my strength." Logan laughed and said, "I've recognized your strength for a long time. In my previous life, I awakened the aura on the battlefield, but now you've done this very early in your life." Ronald told him enthusiastically, "I was able to awaken the aura within me only because of you, Logan." The latter was puzzled and asked him, "Because of me? How so?" Ronald said while rubbing his hand. "When the guards tried to prevent me from visiting you, I had to overcome them to see you. During that, my inner strength surged, and I found myself using the aura for the first time in my life." Logan showed amazement and joy at the same time. "I can't believe you beat them and awakened your aura in one go. That's extremely rare." He continued, "Few succeed in that at this age, but it proves you carry great talent. And when your aura stabilizes, I'll personally teach you my style of dueling. Then you'll be able to surpass your old self and even excel beyond me in the future. I have great hope in you." Later, Logan headed to the northern castle in the barony, where he met Duin to ask him about the latest developments in his mission. Duin answered, "I executed all your orders literally. I gathered 350 mercenaries of sea level for you, and they're all waiting for you." The conversation moved to the assembly hall where the mercenaries were making fun of Logan and whispering, "We never thought we'd work under the command of the crazy young man we heard about his adventures everywhere. His reputation is bad, and they say he's weak and can't even hold a sword properly." Anger flared in Logan's heart when he heard their whispers. Then he called to one of the mercenaries saying, "I want to talk to you. Do you think I'm weak, or do you think I carry the sword just for show in front of you?" The mercenary was confused and didn't know how to respond, while Logan continued, "I can now show you the power of those you serve, and if you're truly brave, you should accept my challenge directly. We'll settle this quickly since you're nothing but a beginner mercenary of sea level, and you're not worthy of arrogance." Logan's bold words stunned everyone, leaving them wondering silently, where did he get this kind of nerve? The challenge was thrown down, and Logan declared, "I give you a nobleman's promise. If you can land even one hit on me, I'll pay you a full year's salary without you working a single day for me." Everyone stood there in shock, while the mercenary shot back defiantly, "I was going to teach you a lesson even without money, but now that you've promised me this amount, I won't let you walk away in one piece. Get ready." This mercenary was tall and built like a brick house, and some of his buddies whispered, "He's not just weird looking, I think he's B level. What's he doing here with us?" Logan felt felt the thrill of the challenge and thought to himself, look how cocky this guy is, time to knock him down a peg. The mercenary bragged, I'll give you the first shot out of the goodness of my heart. Come on, show me what you got, Logan asked with a smirk. You sure you won't regret this? The mercenary replied, don't worry, punks like you can't hurt me even if you tried. Logan burst forward using his aura and power, landing a direct hit to the mercenary's face that dropped him flat in one shot, leaving everyone stunned speechless. Everyone stared in amazement, saying, how did he take him down so easily? Is it possible he's got this kind of power at such a young age? This is unbelievable. In the middle of all this shock, Logan started releasing his aura in front of them to make them feel the real difference in power, then addressed them saying, that guy I just beat was pathetically weak. So is there anyone else who doubts my strength and wants to face me? Silence fell over the entire area, and awe and fear took hold of them. Some said, we never believed that a kid his age could master aura to this degree. This just isn't natural. Silence watched the scene and confirmed in his mind, I knew from the start he wasn't ordinary, but I never imagined his power went way beyond this level. As for Logan, he smiled and said, I've successfully planted my authority in the mercenaries' hearts, and that's the foundation of leadership. He stood before them and announced, you're all here because Duin assigned you, but he hasn't told you exactly what your mission is yet. Then he continued, my goal is to train all of you to be the best archers and the finest force the barony can use. Duin and Ansalon were shocked by Logan's words, wondering secretly, what's he planning to do? Why does he want to turn a mercenary unit into archers? How's he gonna pull that off? As for the mercenaries themselves, they looked at him with confusion. How's he gonna turn us into mobile archers? Just to shoot one arrow, we need a whole day of training. Cylon approached and asked Logan, archers usually position themselves to hit targets from fixed point show. Are you gonna make them shoot arrows while on horseback? That's nearly impossible, Logan answered confidently. I know this well, and I have a plan that'll change everything. Logan stood before Cylon with firm, confident looks, telling him, trust me, Cylon, maybe my ideas seem weird or unrealistic to you right now, but I assure you that you'll understand what I mean and realize the genius of my plan soon. All you need to do now is start training the new soldiers in archery without delay. I'm confident you'll see the results with your own eyes and very quickly. Then he continued with a tone full of enthusiasm and ambition. The mobile archer forces we're gonna build will be our decisive advantage in the coming Continental War and will be the cornerstone of our victory. Cylon looked at him with some doubt, still considering the matter impossible based on his previous military knowledge. But he finally gave in, saying, I won't oppose you, Commander. I'll start training them right away as you wanted. Here Logan felt relieved, realizing he was starting to put his plans into action and that the first steps had actually begun. A few days passed, and the day came when Logan received the first results and reports about the soldiers' progress and development in archery training. He learned that only 312 out of the 350 mercenaries succeeded in passing the preliminary tests by proving they had enough skill and talent. Meanwhile, Mar the blacksmith came heading toward Logan, looking like a mix of confusion and amazement, carrying in his hand the paper containing the design Logan had sent him earlier, saying, Sir Logan, I received the weapon design you sent me. Is this really what you want? Logan answered him with a confident smile. Yes, Mar. This innovative bow design will be the main weapon we'll distribute to the archers in our army. This bow hasn't been seen on the battlefield except in the late Continental War, and it was an amazing weapon that gave its users extraordinary combat power. I'm confident that you, with your exceptional skills, will be able to craft it. Mar seemed hesitant to speak and hesitated a bit before saying, but sir, this bow is really strange. I've never seen anything like it in my life. You're asking me for a weapon that can shoot 3 arrows at once with amazing reload speed. I've never encountered a design like this before, and I wonder to myself, where did you get that design? Logan laughed, saying, I'm the creator of this design myself, Mar. Trust my knowledge, and you won't be disappointed in me. Mar was stunned for a moment, his amazement growing at this level of confidence and creativity, before saying, well, I admit the design is distinctive and unique, but the big problem lies in the trigger. The bow, in this case, might not withstand the enormous pressure from shooting 3 arrows at once. How do you plan to solve this problem? Logan replied with a cunning smile. I have an excellent suggestion. If we reduce the diameter of the arrowhead, the explosion force will decrease with it, and this way the pressure on the bow will lessen and the trigger will be able to handle it. Mar was shocked by the simplicity of the solution and his quick thinking, saying, even the strongest archers from dwarf or human races never dared to shoot 2 arrows together, let alone 3 arrows at once. You're about to change the rules of archery completely. I've never heard of an invention like this in the world, Logan answered with renewed confidence. Exactly. No one has beaten me to this weapon yet. We'll be the first. Mar looked at the lists of materials and tools required to craft the first bow prototype, his expression changing to enthusiasm as he said, I'll accept the challenge and make it for you, sir. It's every blacksmith's dream to innovate something like this. Logan asked about the expected delivery date for the first copy, and Mar answered answered while sighing, "This is a completely new weapon. It's hard for me to set a definitive deadline for finishing it," Logan replied with a sly smile. "Another human beat you to it and managed to make a similar version quite easily. If you don't succeed in making it within 1 month, then you're less than that, man." The fire of competition ignited inside Mar, and he said with sharp enthusiasm, "Challenge accepted. Promise you on my honor as a dwarf that I'll finish it within a month." Logan thanked him and left with deep satisfaction, certain that Mar had enough motivation to give him his best. After that, Logan headed to Victor, who was training hard to become a knight. Logan noticed the severe exhaustion on Victor's face, but shouted at him with strength and determination, "Keep going, Victor. Time's not up yet. You still have a lot ahead before you take a break. If you continue at this slow pace, you'll never become a knight." Victor answered while panting, "Yes, sir," and continued training despite all the fatigue. Logan watched closely how Victor's body began to gradually regain its health and strength. After being provided with proper nutrition and care, he said to himself with admiration, "This boy can run 20 kilometers straight even though he's only 14. He's truly a rare talent. I've never met a young man his age with this kind of determination and toughness. He does all this just to protect his little sister Mary." Logan stood watching his strength of will, contemplating his spirit and warrior nature, wondering to himself, how did this child, despite all this determination and kindness in his heart, turn into a terrifying noble killer in the future? Did his sister Mary play a role in his radical transformation, making him turn into a merciless, ruthless person? In any case, I must protect both of them in this life, and ensure that Victor doesn't go through the same dark fate again. After Victor finished his brutal training rounds, Mary quickly approached him carrying a cup of water with trembling hands and said worriedly, "Are you okay, brother?" Victor smiled and took the cup, while Logan watched the scene saying, "This kid's crazy, but he has an unbreakable spirit. This love for his sister drives him to surpass all limits." Minutes later, Logan shouted, "Break time's over, Victor. Now I'm gonna teach you the famous dueling style. The Grant's dueling style that's considered the style of all the kingdom's nobles." He handed him the training sword, saying, "Watch me careful. You'll demonstrate the skills in front of you, and you need to watch, learn, and copy every move I make." Victor was exhausted and tired from training, feeling sleepy and completely drained, but he clung to his iron will and said to himself, "I'll never give up, even if I find no comfort in pain except that my sister and I finally enjoy a safe life away from the humiliation of slavery. I'll continue to the end. I must be much stronger, so no one threatens her safety ever again." Then he began repeating all of Logan's movements precisely, despite the obvious exhaustion. Logan followed Victor with growing admiration and said amazed, "Is this possible? He's not just copying my movements and body, but even my breathing style itself. His talent is unique. Even my brother Ronald, who has great talent, I don't think he matches Victor in this uniqueness." Logan felt happiness and pride, and resolved to support Victor at any cost to become a great knight and stay away from the dark fate awaiting him. Logan told him firmly, "Keep training like this, and if you swing your sword more than 1,000 times correctly, I'll consider you a mature knight and officially include you in my army at the first opportunity." Victor's face lit up with happiness upon hearing that. "Really? Are you sure?" Logan smiled confidently as he looked at him. "Absolutely. If you keep up this same determination and progress, you'll prove to me that you deserve to be a strong knight, and I'll freely keep my promise to you and your sister together." Victor felt intense enthusiasm and confirmed his resolve. "I promise you, I won't waste a single opportunity. I'll train until the very end." Then Logan said, "So be it. If you need anything, tell Rick and he'll take care of providing all your demands and your sister Mary's needs too." Victor said shyly, "Thank you, sir, but I don't need anything else right now. I just want you to ensure my sister Mary's safety. That's my only wish." Logan laughed gently and said, "I like your loyalty and courage, Victor. Keep it up and you'll achieve what you aspire to and more." And so, spirit and hope were rekindled in Victor's heart, and he continued on his path to carve his name with pride among the kingdom's strongest knights, and free himself and his sister from the chains of the past. Logan was watching Victor train with determination, thinking to himself, "Victor is still far from being qualified to truly join my army, but I'm confident his future holds formidable power, and he'll later become one of the pillars of the family I'll be proud of." He continued training with Victor tirelessly, realizing his grand plan had already begun moving in the right direction. But deep down, he knew things weren't all that simple. If Mar failed to craft the team's special bows, or if the soldiers failed to use them skillfully, it would be a real disaster and might bring back the painful past all over again. So he kept reminding himself cautiously, "I must prepare a backup plan in case we fail in my first plan, so the tragedies of the past won't repeat themselves." Logan then moved to his father Patrick's hall, stood before him with serious looks, and said clearly, "I want to join the training of our family's special knights, father." Shock was evident on Patrick's face at his son's unexpected request, but after a moment of reflection, he agreed to support him in his choices. The next day, Logan went to join the knight's training. The veteran knight commander, Hain, welcomed him and announced loudly to everyone, "Starting today, Logan will train with us temporarily in the knight's ranks." Whispers and amazement spread through the knight's ranks, and their sarcastic comments leaked out. "How does he join our training so easily? His defeat of someone weak like Demon doesn't make him a knight. Who does he think he is?" Hain sensed that tension as he watched them silently, remembering his recent conversation with Patrick when he informed him of Logan's intention to join their training. Hain was worried and told the patriarch, "This matter will create some problems among the knights, sir." Patrick answered confidently, "Treat him exactly like a new trainee. Don't worry. I don't want any special treatment for him. Train him and show him the meaning of true knighthood." Hain reluctantly nodded and said to himself, "I don't understand how Patrick asks me to be harsh with his son without discrimination. This will make the task really difficult." At the start of training, Hain approached Logan and whispered, "Don't worry about their looks and talk. To test your determination, if you can't keep up with the knight's training during this week, withdraw yourself." Logan looked at him steadily and said, "Agreed. Give me your toughest training and I'll do everything I can, and if I fail, I'll withdraw on my own." Amazement appeared on Hain's face at Logan's decisive response, so he announced to everyone, "This week's training will be 3 times harder than usual. We'll see your true determination." The harsh training began, starting with each knight carrying his partner on his shoulders and running a long distance in the forest. Exhaustion dominated the knights' faces, and some wondered, what's the point of this weird training? We're usually knights whose strength lies in horsemanship, so why are we exerting all this unjustified effort? Hain answered them firmly, "You're knights who always depend on horses in war. You need to feel the suffering of the horses that carry you throughout battle, so you learn to treat them and realize their value. You only know comfort and ignore the amount of hardship those creatures endure, so you must suffer a little for what they suffer." One knight whispered in amazement, "This is the stupidest training I've ever been through. It's definitely like this just because Logan is with us, and he wants to get him out quickly." The others laughed and said, "This kid won't last until the end of the day. He'll be kicked out before the week ends." But the surprise amazed everyone. Despite the severe fatigue, Logan was ahead of them all, covering distances without showing exhaustion or slackness, generating astonishment among the knights that didn't fade. They said, "What's happening? Is he superhuman? How is he ahead of all of us when he's the youngest and least experienced?" As for Hain, he was watching Logan with amazement mixed with admiration and fear, wondering to himself, "Unbelievable. How can this young man I previously saw as weak and helpless excel like this? Is this the Logan we know or someone else?" He smiled while looking at him critically, then turned his gaze to the rest of the knights, saying to himself, "This way Logan will never fail. Rather, the knights themselves will collapse first." It seems I was wrong in assessing this young man. Hain got angry and called to everyone, "Stop immediately. 10-minute break, then we continue the exercise." He then approached Logan asking, "Do you really intend to continue this harsh training? I think everyone's exhausted, and you don't need to prove your determination to me since I've seen it myself. If you want to stop, you can do so now, and I'll cancel the rest of your training." Logan turned to him with a slight smile and said, "You're talking like you're addressing someone else. Of course I'll complete the training to the end. The harsher the knight's training, the stronger they become, and I want to be strong like them. Increase the intensity of the exercises if you can. I love challenges and won't hesitate to give my all, and I think my team will love difficult challenges too." The rest of the soldiers and knights heard this conversation, so their terror increased, and they said, "Logan has really gotten us into this madness. We won't survive if things continue like this. He's put us in a real bind." As for Hain, his anger increased, and he said to himself, he was supposed to withdraw or back down from the beginning. Now if he continues at this pace, the knights themselves will have to withdraw instead of him. At night, Logan decided to go to the forest after finishing the exhausting knight's training. He didn't go to sleep like the rest of the knights, but decided to use the time for additional physical and mental training. He said to himself, "I know joining the family knight's training isn't the main goal, but just a backup plan for circumstances. If my plan to prepare my personal forces for the Continental War fails, then I'll join these knights and fight on the front lines myself to achieve victory for the family." He continued his thinking. "To earn these knights' trust, I must go through hardships with them and not just rely on orders and talk. They'll never trust me if I'm not actually among them. More importantly, this training itself will strengthen me physically more and more. True, the aura increases my strength, but it alone isn't enough. Wars don't spare those who slack off on developing themselves." He began releasing the aura throughout his body, remembering that among the aura's important advantages, besides increasing physical strength, it removes fatigue from its user and renews the spirit's energy. This is what distinguishes elite warriors from others. He said, a true knight rarely feels exhaustion like other knights. If I can raise my aura center's classification to 2 stars, then I'll reach approximately the same strength as my father, Patrick, and my mission will become much easier. Since I've charted my path, I have no choice but to continue and succeed. The next morning, Mar came to Logan carrying the first models and designs for the bows he tried to make. Logan examined the models carefully, then shook his head and said, this isn't what I want, Mar. All these models only function to shoot 1 arrow. Where's the design that achieves shooting 3 arrows at once? Mar's face clouded with frustration and anger as he said, sir, you don't realize how difficult this request is. Having just the design isn't enough. Even implementing these theoretical lines and precise equations for the bow's trigger and ultra-fast loading is nearly impossible. It's easy to draw ideas on paper, but reality is completely different. Logan felt frustrated and said to Mar in a tone closer to reproach, I apologize to you. It seems I made a mistake when I relied on you this much. I thought you were the best blacksmith among all the kingdom's dwarves, and you even swore by dwarven honor that you'd complete this new weapon. Mar exploded angrily in his face, raising his voice. Don't insult my abilities in the art of blacksmithing. This is an insult to me personally, and to all dwarves. I'll never forgive you for it, even if you are my lord. Logan got a little flustered, raised his hand in surrender, and continued apologizing calmly. It was my mistake, but I never meant to belittle you. Maybe I didn't appreciate how difficult this was, and never imagined that bow-making had such a deep relationship with blacksmithing secrets. Mar's anger increased and he shouted, shut up, don't try to justify what you did. Logan smiled cunningly, then said, who would have imagined that someone who claims to be the world's best blacksmith would need 3 full weeks to craft bows that any ordinary blacksmith could make? That was my mistake from the beginning, because I trusted you. Maybe dwarves have become failures, or you yourself are just a failed dwarf. Mar's face blazed with anger as he threatened, I accept the challenge. I'll return to my workshop, and I promise you in front of everyone that within just 1 month I'll craft exactly the weapon you requested from me. Then he grabbed the bows he had made and broke them violently in front of Logan while saying, wait for me, and I'll show you who the real best blacksmith in the world is. Mar left angrily, while Logan just laughed loudly and talked to himself. I've made him completely angry now. He'll be forced to continue working from scratch, and he'll give his absolute best just to prove his superiority. People like Mar don't bring out their best unless they're under pressure, and when they feel their pride is challenged. Days passed, and after a full month, Mar returned to Logan carrying the new bow he had crafted with his own hands. It gleamed under the sunlight, and Mar was panting from exhaustion. Mar said with pride, test the bow yourself and tell me what you think. This bow was made to shoot 2 arrows at once with speed and accuracy, and it's much lighter than you'd expect, with a high reload rate too. Logan tested the bow himself, tried reloading it, and fired 2 arrows at once that hit the target accurately. He looked stunned and said to himself, reloading the bow only took 5 seconds. Its performance is even better than the bows used at the end of the last Continental War. With this weapon, archer forces can utilize their full potential and gain crushing superiority on the battlefield. The basic plan has succeeded completely. Mar stood before Logan smiling, but he tried to contain his joy so he wouldn't appear arrogant, and said in a dry tone, this is exactly what I wanted. Any soldier can use it regardless of their strength, and the arrow's efficiency will be extremely high. But don't think I'm happy just because you requested it. Logan laughed and said, I wasn't expecting this speed from you. There's still a full month before the Civil War starts, which gives me plenty of time to prepare the soldiers and bows. You've outdone yourself, Mar. Mar approached boastfully and asked, tell me now, do you finally admit that I'm the best blacksmith in the kingdom? Logan laughed, then suddenly picked up Mar and spun him around joyfully, saying, you really are the best. You've accomplished what no one else could. Mar yelled at him in embarrassment, put me down. I'm not a little kid. You'll ruin my reputation among the dwarves if they find out about this. Logan put Mar down and said with obvious satisfaction, I have another request for you, Mar, since you've proven you're truly #1 in blacksmithing. Mar straightened up and asked, what's the new request this time? Logan said without hesitation, I want you to make me 400 bows of this type in just 2 months. You said you're the best. My entire army will depend on your skill and honor for this task. Are you ready? The scene shifted to the training grounds where Selon was testing the new bow with the soldiers. Mar had shown them the bow, and they were impressed and amazed by its ability to hit distant targets with precision and ease. One of them said, I've never seen a weapon like this in my life. The range is incredible, and the reload is faster than anything I've tried. Another said in amazement, shooting 2 arrows with such precision and speed. If all our soldiers carry these bows, no enemy will stand against us. Selon himself was feeling amazed and said, I never thought there was a bow of this quality in the world before. Logan's idea of a battalion of 300 soldiers carrying these bows is truly terrifying. They could crush any army they face in any battle. Cylon approached Logan and praised him, saying, "You're amazing, Logan. Only now do I understand what you meant by mobile archers. This bow will change the rules of battle." Logan laughed and said, "All thanks go to Mar. He's made 300 bows in 2 weeks so far, and succeeded in making 100 additional bows as backup even though he was completely exhausted from work. I really expected that from the best blacksmith among the dwarves," but he added thoughtfully, "Things aren't completely easy. I need to distribute these bows exclusively to the barony forces, but there are 2 problems. First, I need far more of them in the future, and second, and more dangerous, any leak of information about these bows outside the barony's borders will pose a major threat to us. I must keep this weapon secret for now." He gave orders to Salon, "Give the bows to your squad and take them out of the province. Head to hunt in the forest borders and hunt every beast you find there." Ceylon was puzzled and asked, "Why hunting suddenly? Isn't there another reason?" Logan answered decisively, "Just follow orders, Ceylon, and don't ask too much. You need to trust me, and any negligence will make all our effort go to waste." Ceylon nodded and didn't object, but doubts entered his heart as he thought to himself, "It's unreasonable that this would be just for hunting beasts. Is he planning to enter war with another province soon?" Meanwhile, Logan returned to the Barony Knights field, where they were watching him with amazement during his training. He was carrying 2 knights on his shoulders and running at incredible speed, which aroused the admiration and suspicion of the observers. One of the knights whispered to his friend, "How does he do this? Has he acquired physical strength that allows him to match the swordmaster, the patriarch himself?" Another said hesitantly, "Impossible. Logan lost against his younger brother Ronan before Ronan even awakened his power and aura, but I've become impressed with his patience and determination. He spent a full month undergoing the harshest types of training that the strongest humans couldn't endure, and he hasn't given up for a single moment." The third said, "Commander Hayne designed those harsh training exercises just to drive Logan away. Most likely he was hoping for his failure, but he surprised us all with his success. What's more dangerous is that the new knights have started looking with respect at this type of training and feel it has helped them strengthen their abilities significantly." Another knight said, "Even the veteran knights have started talking about the importance of caring for horses, and some have begun apologizing to their horses for neglecting them in training and battles. It seems Logan didn't just win the challenge, but changed all the knights' understanding of themselves and their followers." Thus, the results of Logan's efforts and perseverance began to show throughout the family and the entire barony, as change became clear in spirits before it appeared on the battlefield. In the training yard, one of the knights was carrying his tired comrade on his back and running, while his comrade said apologetically while panting, "I think I've gotten heavier than last time. I've been eating too much lately." The other knight laughed and patted his shoulder while saying tenderly, "Don't worry, we're friends. These are the moments when true friendship shows. Don't worry about it at all. I'll always be here to support you." His comrade smiled, his eyes welling up with gratitude. "Thank you. I don't know what I would have done without a loyal friend like you." Hayne was watching them from afar, pride and joy showing on his face, and he said to himself, "The bond between the knights has become very strong. I never expected that the training we designed originally to drive Logan away would strengthen the knights like this and deepen their bonds." Then Hayne looked at Logan, with genuine gratitude in his heart, and said to himself, "I must thank him later, as he was the reason for all this transformation among them." As for Logan, he was puzzled by Hayne's looks at him and thought, "Why is he looking at me like that? He's really a strange person." Logan left the yard heading to his room, where he began training determinedly to strengthen his core, realizing that physical training is important, but more important is increasing the stars of his aura core to strive to reach the level of Saint Sword style. He contemplated to himself saying, "The strongest in the world are those with superhuman fighter styles and great warriors, those who have transcended human limits. In my previous life, I was far from them and lived in their shadows, but now I have a real chance to become like them in this life." Logan began the process of pumping mana and aura into his core powerfully. He felt the aura flowing through his body and increasing with each breath, until he felt an explosion would occur. Moments passed, and he felt a new force sweep through his body. He opened his eyes with joy and realized he had finally raised his core to carry 2 stars instead of 1. He said excitedly, "I finally did it. I now have a 2-star aura core. I can learn the true basics of Saint Sword style. I previously knew some devastating attacks specific to 1 core, but now I have the ability to learn much stronger styles." He wondered while feeling motivated. "Can I master these techniques before the Civil War breaks out? I must be ready for any surprises or threats. If I succeed in that, even the highest ranked duelists won't be able to scare me again. Instead, I'll face them as equals with strength." The next day, Logan went out with Cylon and his forces to the outskirts of the outer forest where beasts multiply. The atmosphere suddenly changed. As soon as the beasts saw them, they began to flee, but Cylon ordered his forces, "Attack them quickly as we trained. Remember the attack and control plan you learned. The soldiers spread out and pounced on groups of golems and shot arrows at targets with skill and speed. The beasts were brought down with unusual speed, as the hits were severe and fatal. Selen watched in amazement. These bows are incredible. I never imagined a weapon with this effectiveness. The soldiers' voices rose with admiration. These bows are stronger than swords themselves. We can reload and shoot again quickly without exerting much effort. Everything has changed. As for Logan, he stood on the edge of the hill watching the scene, and smiled when he saw 100 beasts slain in less than 10 seconds. He spoke to himself with pride. The results are truly amazing. 1 battalion. If they improve more, this unit will become an invincible force for any army. This is why I brought them here, to learn to exploit the bow in a real battle, preparing for the decisive day. Selen approached him and asked, "Are you satisfied with the soldiers' performance?" Logan replied confidently, "More than satisfied. At first they were fools who couldn't tell their arrows apart, but today they're on their way to becoming the best, and in a very short time they'll be ready for everything." Selen asked worriedly, "Why this rush, Logan? You're preparing them as if you're expecting a momentous event. The only thing I can think of is war, or maybe planning a coup against the Patriarch." Logan looked at him for a long moment. Then Selen said hesitantly, "I want to ask you a question, and you can answer or refuse. Why are you preparing an army with this strength and these numbers? You can't just want to hunt the continent's monsters. How do you justify this number of mercenaries and this huge spending?" Logan was about to answer him, but at that moment one of the guards came rushing toward them. Logan asked him, "Who are you, and what brings you here?" Selen intervened, explaining, "This is one of the border knights, and it seems he has urgent news. Rick, your head servant, sent him, Logan." Logan was surprised and asked the guard, "What does Rick want from me?" The guard replied precisely, "We received urgent messages that Viscount Terran has declared war on us." Logan froze in place from the shock of the surprise. Impossible. The scene went back a little, where Viscount Terran appeared and sat facing Baron Patrick and his men, his voice raised as he hurled accusations. "I blame all of you for what your ancestors did to mine. You have been the cause of our destruction and suffering since ancient times, and today I will repay the debt and declare war on you." Patrick was in complete shock, looked around, then shouted, "What are you talking about, man?" One of the assistants intervened. "He's just looking for any excuse to wage war, to appear before the kingdom in the role of the victim," Commander Hain asked in a low voice. "Sir, how will you respond to this war? Viscount Terran's forces outnumber us, and he might turn to his allies. Our chances are weak." The chaos was obvious, and Mariana said fearfully, "I must write to my family. Maybe they'll help us if things get worse." Someone suggested, "We can fortify ourselves inside the city and defend from there, or maybe we send a messenger offering ransom in exchange for peace." Patrick got angry and shouted loudly, "All of you be quiet. The monarchy has weakened, but no one dares declare war without their permission. These bastards plan together. And as for you who suggest ransom, do you think they want peace? They have no goal but to destroy us completely." He turned his gaze to everyone and ordered, "Prepare for war and make the necessary plans to win. I accept nothing but victory and crushing the enemies, or else there's no place for us here." Everyone was shocked, and one of the assistants asked, "And will you allow your children to participate too? This is dangerous." Patrick interrupted him angrily, "My children will participate just like any knight. Ronan is strong and his aura equals any brave knight, and Logan proved he's the strongest among everyone and will be with you. No one will hide behind walls. Everyone is equally responsible." Worry prevailed, and the servants' eyes focused on the heated discussion, and some whispered about the danger awaiting the family and the barony. The servants were exchanging news among themselves, saying, "We heard that Logan is training with his knights on the borders of the barony, and it said he's become very strong and will be able to help us." Some whispered optimistically that the return was near, and others wondered about his ability in times of hardship. As for Baron Patrick, he caught those whispers, so he stood among them saying to himself, "We're really in trouble. It's true that I made everyone believe Logan is training on the borders of the barony, but he's actually training with his forces in the outer forest. Now, if they knew about that, it would be a big crisis." He rushed running toward his office, saying, "I must send him a message immediately. He must return right away and help us." We returned to the guard, who had explained everything that happened to Logan, and made him understand that he came on Rick's orders specifically to ask for his help and request his return to save them. After Logan listened to all the details, he felt shocked and said to himself, "I don't understand. The Civil War was supposed to start in 2 months. How did everything accelerate like this? This means the future has completely changed." The guard bowed and continued, "Count Terran and his forces abandoned all the honor of nobles. As soon as he declared war, they moved immediately and didn't wait. You must move now quickly. You might catch up with our forces and participate in the battle at least halfway through." Logan began thinking intensely, searching for a solution, when Selen interrupted his thoughts and said, "This isn't the time for long thinking. The mercenary forces you prepared are completely ready for any battle." Then he confirmed confidently, "Our strength is ready." Logan was surprised by Selen's confidence and asked him, "Aren't you surprised that a war suddenly broke out and that we got involved in it?" it? Ceylon smiled strongly and said, "We are mercenaries. War is our life. Now we have new weapons and we're eager to test them. We'll wipe out your enemies. Our mission is to protect our master until the end." Logan started laughing a little and said, "You're very confident in yourselves, but this is true. You really are ready for war. The biggest proof is that the pack of monsters didn't last even 10 seconds against you. I've been expecting this war for a while, so I prepared early, and now, even if it started 2 months early, I have no choice but to move immediately to save my family. Get ready to move right away. We'll participate in this war." The events moved to the borders of the barony, where the guards were watching the horizon, and they saw the forces of Count Terran's family approaching the borders of the province in huge numbers. One of the guards rushed and informed Baron Patrick, saying, "We saw Count Terran's forces have arrived. Their numbers are extremely huge." He continued as he reviewed the details. "The enemy army consists of 100 knights from powerful nobles, and 1,000 regular soldiers, and about 10,000 mercenaries. These are numbers sufficient for a total war." When Patrick heard this, he was shocked and said, "That bastard Terran has completely lost his mind. Even having 100 strong knights, many of them sword masters and aura users, makes things extremely dangerous. So how if he added 10,000 mercenaries he hired for a civil war? There must be someone supporting him secretly." Then he wondered, what benefit will he gain if he destroys my family and controls all this land? Then the guard added, saying, "There's another extremely important news, sir. You received from the Baron Kiro's family, your wife's father, that they decided not to participate in this war, and won't send any soldiers to help you." No sooner did Mariana hear that than she gasped in shock and said, "This isn't true. They can't do this to me. My father promised me support." The guard answered, "Your financial advisor Dowen visited them today, and they confirmed to him that they won't interfere and won't send you any soldier." Mariana was startled. "Impossible. My family abandoned me." Patrick felt anger and disappointment and issued his orders. "Everyone in the province must prepare themselves for war. All men who are fit to bear arms, from knights and soldiers, and even peasants, should gather now. This is the time for battle, and we have no alternative but victory." The guard answered him, "Yes, sir." And inside himself, Patrick felt the bitterness of betrayal from everyone, even from the Kiro's family he trusted. And now, the fate of the family and the entire province was tied to the strength of his determination alone. And on the morning of the next day, Patrick moved with his forces toward the battlefield, and his army consisted of 53 knights who use aura, and 523 regular soldiers, in addition to 4,000 peasants. And when his forces reached the field, he and his army were shocked when they saw that their numbers didn't even reach half of Terran's army. Anger blazed in his heart, and he realized they were in real trouble. The soldiers began whispering, "Where's Logan? Didn't someone say he would participate in the war?" And another said, "I heard from some that Logan left the province a while ago for training, and is still outside and hasn't returned." One of them wondered, "He went to train at a time like this? Is he a runaway?" Ronan was standing near them, so he heard their hints and got angry and said, "What are you talking about? My brother Logan is the bravest person I've known. He can't run away and leave us. He was expecting this war to break out. He taught me secret techniques in preparation for this day, and said he would act to save the family." Then he added, "Logan never abandons any of us." But some soldiers ignored Ronan's words and continued wondering where Logan disappeared, while Ronan remained in his place, his heart boiling with anger. As for Patrick, he turned to Ronan and said, "Don't listen to them. You must exert twice what you can to compensate for your brother's absence. I will depend on you to lead the soldiers, and you must never weaken." Ronan said, "Yes, father," Patrick muttered. "The war here is fierce. Logan's absence will affect us, but if we lose this battle, we'll lose our lives and our land. No retreat, an immediate crushing attack." And his forces began attacking Terran's army, while Terran himself was laughing mockingly and saying, "What a fool! He finally decided to fight instead of fleeing. Today, the barony will become mine alone." Terran ordered his forces to attack Patrick's army violently, and started planning to seize the province without mercy. The battle began and the fighting intensified, and Patrick advanced carrying his spear and directing his aura toward the front, and said, "I must crush these soldiers quickly and reach Terran and his leaders." So he rushed to attack one of the knights in the front row. But he was surprised when that knight easily blocked his attack, so he shouted, "Impossible! He blocked my aura strike." The knight replied while laughing with contempt, "As I expected, fool. You'll regret facing me." While flames erupted throughout the battlefield, Rick was watching the horror and chaos around him, his body trembling as he could barely move. He saw one of his injured fellow servants crawling toward him, asking for help and rescue. But before Rick could extend a helping hand, one of Terran's soldiers rushed toward them and stabbed the wounded servant, killing him on the spot. Rick trembled and said in a shaky voice, "What's happening? We're suffering a crushing defeat. Our army isn't prepared at all to face Terran's forces of this size." He continued thinking, "The Baron's decision to involve even peasants peasants and servants like me in the war means what we're facing is a real survival war. If we lose here, we'll lose our lives and homes and everything. Then he wondered to himself, where are you, Logan? I hope you have a plan to get us out of what we're in. The moment Rick raised his head, one of Saron's soldiers pounced on him, brandishing his spear. Rick was thrown to the ground and stabbed with the weapon. Just as the killer was preparing to finish him off, an allied soldier suddenly appeared and charged towards Saron's soldier, attacking him with force and managing to kill him, saving Rick at the last second. The allied soldier approached Rick and said in a stern tone, "What are you doing here? You need to get up right now and hold on to your spear. Enemy soldiers will never show mercy on the battlefield." Joy filled Rick's heart as he said, "Finally, there's an allied soldier protecting me. I'll stick with him and take shelter. Maybe I can survive this disaster until Logan arrives." But events didn't give him time, and suddenly another soldier attacked them from a distance, shooting arrows that killed the allied soldier instantly. Rick's whole body trembled as he shouted with terror filling his heart, "Impossible, there's no escape from this battle, they'll wipe us all out." He ran away from the battlefield and kept running non-stop, panting and telling himself, "I have to escape now. I'm just a servant. I can't fight soldiers. If I stay here, I'll definitely die." When he reached the rear area of the battlefield, he was hit with an even bigger shock. All the soldiers assigned to protect the rear ranks had been killed. His eyes fell on a complete enemy battalion attacking them from behind, and Rick shouted in terror, "Impossible! They've surrounded us from everywhere. Our end is coming. Please, Logan, come quickly. Your family will be wiped out if you don't show up now." The scene returned to Patrick, who was still fighting his battle against that powerful knight. Patrick was amazed by the knight's ability to block his attack with aura force, even at its maximum strength. The knight kept laughing and saying in a provocative tone, "You're as strong as they say about you, and we've prepared long to meet you today, but we didn't fake our strength in front of you for nothing. You can feel for yourself that you couldn't completely block our attack." Patrick said to himself, "That bastard withstood the brutality of my attack without getting a single wound. This means he's a real swordmaster like me. I didn't know Tyron had knights of this high level. Obviously there's someone who scares him more than me. And not only that, but there are 4 other knights with sword expert levels supporting him now. I'll have to face them all at once, and this is a major disaster." Patrick spoke to the enemy leader and said, "It's clear you don't intend to fight one-on-one. Why don't you face me alone?" The knight commander answered, "It's hard for my battle with you to be individual, Patrick. It's better that we finish you off as a group and end this quickly." Then he and his group actually began surrounding Patrick, wanting to prevent him from escaping, preparing to attack him all at the same moment. Patrick thought, "If I get surrounded like this now, even my knights will be finished, and nothing will remain for my family. I must never allow that." Patrick angrily threw his spear to the ground and drew his sword, then began releasing his full aura, saying firmly, "I have to get rid of them quickly so I can join my knights. If I lose here, my family and our legacy will be completely erased. I won't allow that as long as I'm alive." Patrick charged, attacking the knight commander directly. "I'll finish you off first. You're the most dangerous of all." The commander easily blocked the attack, but suddenly Patrick changed his target and pounced on one of the commander's deputies. The group wondered in amazement, why is he attacking the assistant before the commander? Patrick was trying to destroy their internal ranks. "If I break their formation from within, their balance will be disrupted, and this is my chance to survive." But in the next moment, another knight appeared behind him and tried to stab him with a spear, but Patrick quickly dodged the attack. He realized then that these knights were prepared in advance for such plans, and any individual attempt would be met with another quick siege. Patrick attacked the opposing knight again, but his attack was blocked, and another knight approached from behind, preparing to deliver the stab again. Patrick screamed angrily, "Don't you have any honor among you? This is a coward's plan, not a knight's plan." One of them laughed, "What are you talking about? It's the only way to finish off a monster with your strength." Another said, "Ignore him. He'll die now and won't need to talk much." The knight commander himself said to his followers, "Don't underestimate Baron Patrick. He's a great knight. The man deserves our complete respect, even if we're his enemies." Patrick charged with his full aura and jumped on his horse's back, then attacked one of the knights with his striking aura, only to find the knight blocking his attack with extraordinary speed. But he was shocked by a surprise stab in his back. Patrick turned around to find one of the assistants who had circled behind him, stabbing him with his spear and laughing mockingly. "Didn't we warn you that we wouldn't deal with you honorably?" The knight pulled his spear from Patrick's back, and Patrick was struggling with severe pain and bleeding heavily. Patrick felt his energy was about to run out, so he moved backward with terrified speed, knowing that staying among them meant his certain death. He said to himself, "If it were a one-on-one battle, I could have dealt with them, but against 5 knights of this caliber, I have no chance. They exploit every attack I make. One blocks the blow, while another pounces from behind. My hope was to return to the back where my forces are, to ask for help, but even the rear ranks were completely destroyed. Their plan plan is truly terrifying. Patrick kept retreating, telling himself, maybe Logan's escape from this war was the right choice. Perhaps he saw from the beginning that we had no chance of winning. I hope he preserves the family's honor and legacy elsewhere, and maybe avenges us someday. Seiron was watching what was happening from a distance. Victorious laughter spread across his face, and he said mockingly, how good was my judgment to hide the existence of strong knights in my army. Exploiting this secret information saved me, and here I am today, controlling the barony, and advancing to become one of the kingdom's strongest nobles. My battle with Patrick is really over, and there will be nothing but victory for me alone. Suddenly, his train of thought was interrupted when he heard the sound of new battalions rapidly approaching the warfield. Seiron was shocked and asked, what's going on? Who are these new knights? Send me one of the guards immediately to check the situation. A guard came to him and said, a message has arrived, sir. A force suddenly appeared at the enemy's rear, and it seems their number is about 300 soldiers. Seiron was amazed and asked, are there strong knights among them who could change the course of war? The guard answered, they're not actually knights. They only carry small bows that shoot arrows. There are no sword fighters among them. Seiron laughed mockingly. Bows? Is it over then? These are just hunters brought by the bastards to complete the numbers. Let him send the weakest soldiers to deal with them. He kept laughing and said, it seems Patrick got help from another foolish noble who sent him a handful of peasants disguised as soldiers. But it wasn't long before he saw the new battalion shooting arrows at everyone who approached. Even the soldier he was talking to got hit by an arrow and fell to the ground. Astonishment appeared on Seiron's face as he screamed, what's happening? Who's attacking us now? Seiron looked behind him to find Logan had appeared with all his forces, and they were all using bows. Logan began attacking enemy soldiers with showers of arrows, finishing them off one after another with amazing speed. Then he looked at the battlefield and saw his soldiers and servants tragically dead and wounded. So anger blazed in his eyes, and he shouted to his forces, attack those bastards! This is the last day for Count Seiron's family. I'll finish them all off. At those moments, Seiron's forces were in complete chaos, surprised by the ferocity of the arrow attacks that rained down on them from afar. They began asking in panic, what's happening? We never heard that there was an archer battalion armed with these bows in the McLean family. The soldiers were unable to block the flowing arrows and began falling one after another, until one of them, when he managed to fend off the arrow attacks with his shield and survived, looked around to find his comrades had all fallen beside him, and said in shock, anyone who didn't have time to raise his shield fell dead. I would have been among them if I hadn't caught myself. As for the archers in Seiron's army, they tried to respond to Logan's attack. Their commander called, get ready, aim the arrows quickly. We have to stop their advance before they reach us. They shot their arrows toward Logan's forces, but the arrows fell between them without hitting the target, as the distance was far too great. One of the soldiers said with great concern, our arrows never reached them. How could they hit us from this distance while we failed to respond? Meanwhile, Logan's archer forces kept raining arrows on the enemies with strength and accuracy from a long distance, benefiting from the superiority of their new bows. They managed to wipe out all of Seiron's archer battalions with one strike. Count Seiron was watching the situation from afar, overwhelmed by astonishment, and said to himself, my rear forces and archer battalions were destroyed in seconds because of a new type of bow I'm seeing for the first time. What kind of terrifying weapon did Patrick and his family create to turn against us now? He called to his assistant, ordering him, give the order to the front knights and all remaining knights to withdraw immediately to the main battlefield. We must face these bastards right now and get rid of them before everything turns against us. The soldier answered, yes sir, I'll inform them immediately. The soldier hurried and raised the special summons flag of Seiron's family, and when the front knights and battle soldiers saw that flag, they quickly withdrew from their side confrontations and gathered rapidly toward the flag. When Seiron saw them gathering, he shouted at them, hurry! We must finish off these bastards who attacked us. We must win or we'll be completely destroyed. At that moment, Logan was watching Seiron and his forces' movements. Seeing how he was gathering them all to attack his battalion, he smiled mockingly and said, fools, they're walking straight into the trap without any thought. I won't waste this opportunity. I need to lure them in properly, then help the rest of the family army. On the other side of the battlefield, Ronan, Logan's brother, was facing off against one of the enemy knights. The battle had dragged on and exhausted him with his opponent's physical strength, as the knight was attacking fiercely in an attempt to finish off Ronan. But Ronan was incredibly fast and dodged all his strikes. The knight laughed and said mockingly, you're a sneaky quick kid, but you'd better run this as your family's last day. His companion intervened and asked, what are you doing? You need to finish him off quickly. Strange things are happening on the battlefield, or forces are starting to vanish one by one. He replied, I'm not taking this kid lightly, he's really strong. Ronan said defiantly, shut up and get back to our fight. I won't run from you. The knight smiled and said, why do you insist insist on fighting? You'd be better off saving yourself instead of dying like your family. This isn't a training exercise, it's life or death, Ronin answered with determination. I know that well. This is my first battle in life and the first time I've had to kill a real enemy. But it doesn't matter, now I have to win no matter what. Ronin remembered his father's words, encouraging him to fill Logan's place until he returned, so everyone could depend on him. He said to himself, I'm confident Logan will come back and save us, so I have to hold out no matter what it costs me. While Ronin was preparing, he noticed the knight in front of him suddenly waving his sword as if blocking a non-existent attack. Ronin was puzzled and said, What's this guy doing? Is he stupid? Giving his back to his enemy in the middle of battle? Ronin seized the opportunity and rushed at him quickly, saying, I don't know what's happening, but this is my only chance to help my family. Ronin attacked with all his strength with his sword and managed to strike his opponent. As soon as the knight fell, Ronin stood there wondering, how did I kill him so easily? He was supposed to be a strong knight. Then he noticed the knight's corpse had several arrows in it, and realized his opponent had been hit by arrows before he struck him. He was shocked and said, Who shot the arrows? We don't even have an archer battalion in our army. Suddenly, Ronin turned and saw his brother Logan standing with his victorious battalion. He was amazed and said, It's Logan. He's back just like he promised me. Ronin also noticed a large number of enemy knights gathering behind him, preparing to attack Logan. The knight commander shouted at his men, We must eliminate this archer battalion quickly. We won't let them escape today. Sauron's army forces began surrounding Logan and his battalion, preparing for a violent assault on them, while Ronin kept staring at his brother with admiration and determination, resolved to continue fighting alongside him to the end. Logan kept laughing at them mockingly, then wondered aloud, Do you think those weak armor pieces will protect you from arrows? You'll meet the same fate as all your comrades who came before you. You're truly idiots. Logan issued his command to all his forces with strength and confidence. Target the cavalry forces, attacking us from below. One of the soldiers was surprised by the order and muttered in confusion, I don't understand, how will we target them from below? Wounding their feet won't stop them even if we hit their legs. They'll keep attacking. Logan chuckled with excessive confidence and said, You haven't realized yet we won't target the knight's feet, but the legs of the horses they're riding. This is the fastest way to bring them down. The soldiers, filled with enthusiasm, and understood their leader's intent, saying with smiles, We get your plan, we'll knock them off their horses, and then they'll be easy targets, and we'll finish them off. Logan and his soldiers began attacking the horses' legs with sharp arrows. The horses got injured and fell to the ground, which confused the knights and made them fall suddenly. Some confused soldiers wondered, What are they doing? How are they taking such risks? The moment the knights hit the ground, Logan and his followers didn't hesitate for a second. They attacked them directly and eliminated them all. Logan kept laughing and mocking them sarcastically. You're really idiots. Count Sauron himself didn't respect the rules of war, so why should I respect them with him? After that, Logan looked at his brother Ronin and said to himself, I managed to save them just in time, but I don't know where my father Isis, he okay? I need to find him and help him. I won't let anyone in my family get hurt. Cylon intervened, asking with a worried tone, You're now commanding the soldiers, but where are you going? We were supposed to continue our plan by maintaining formation until we eliminate the rest of the enemies. Logan answered with a firm tone, You take over the command now as I asked you to. I'm going to find my father and rescue him quickly. Cylon stood stunned for moments and wondered about Logan's behavior. Why is he changing his plan in the middle of battle? Victory was within reach if he'd stuck to the plan. If he encounters a high-level swordmaster during his search, death will be his fate immediately. He caught himself and turned to the soldiers. Move! You must provide complete protection for the commander. Your mission now is to protect Logan's back until he finishes his task. They all answered firmly, Yes, sir. The events shifted to Patrick, who was still struggling with the cavalry commander. The knight kept attacking him and hitting him continuously, while Patrick tried to defend himself with his sword and counter the strikes with all his might. With each attack, the knight would laugh and say arrogantly, You're truly insane, attacking when you know your knights will abandon you. You just want to kill one of us before you fall. Suddenly, one of the knights appeared and rushed toward Patrick with tremendous force. Patrick had to dodge his strike at the last moment, but he noticed his wounds were starting to bleed heavily. Patrick pulled back quickly, wondering with concern, Something's not normal. The sound of battle suddenly quieted noticeably, and these knights are attacking with a savagery I haven't noticed before. Since the beginning of the war, they were confident of victory as if they were playing with me, so what's changed now that they're attacking so hastily? 4 knights rushed at him at once, trying to end his life. Panic struck him and he said, I'm in big trouble. Can't fend them all off at the same time. I need to retreat quickly. But at that moment, Logan appeared from behind them suddenly. The soldiers were stunned by his appearance and asked in shock, Who is this young man? How did he appear so suddenly? Logan unleashed all his power and attacked the two knights who were aiming their strikes at Patrick's back. He eliminated them with just one attack, amid everyone's amazement, and said happily, "I arrived at the perfect time to save my father." Patrick looked at him with astonishment and wonder as he inquired, "What are you doing here? Moments ago I saw you with your forces in the heart of the battle. How did you manage to deal with all those and get here?" Patrick turned around to find that Logan had eliminated all his enemies on his way. His amazement increased and he said, "Since when did you become this strong?" Logan interrupted him, "This isn't the time for questions. Now I'll save you first. Then we'll finish this battle." Patrick asked with concern as he caught his breath, "Does your being here mean we're actually starting to win? Did you overcome the enemies?" Logan smiled and said firmly, "My presence was to save you, and after that we'll finish off whoever's left." Patrick felt overwhelming joy and thanked his son with gratitude. "Thank you for coming to save the family. I apologize for doubting you once." As for the cavalry commander, he was still watching the situation with looks full of shock, saying to himself, "How did a young man like this defeat two mid-level knights with just one strike? Impossible. He's not even 20 years old and doesn't yet have the skill or experience for this. That talent should have been mine alone. I've worked hard and trained for years. None of that matters. I'll eliminate him here." The commander issued orders to the twin knights with him. "Help me quickly. We must finish our enemies before we all fall." Patrick watched what was happening and said to himself, "If my assessment is correct, and Logan is now stronger than mid-level knights, I can let him handle them while I face the strong commander. But my injury is hindering me." Then Logan stopped him and warned, "Don't be reckless, father. I'll handle this commander myself. You're injured and can't fight him." Patrick answered with tension, "Do you know who you're about to face? He's a high-level swordmaster. You can't defeat him in your current state." Logan answered confidently while tending to his father's wounds, "I've made my point clear, and I'll show you my true strength. I told you before that I'm no longer the same Logan, and here I am proving it." Patrick looked surprised, then smiled and said calmly, "All right, I trust you, son." The two prepared together to face the remaining knights and get ready for the decisive battle with all their strength. Patrick said to his son Logan while catching his breath, "I'll deal with the mid-level knights and leave the commander to you." Logan replied calmly and powerfully, "Fine, I'll get rid of him quickly." The two rushed forward with amazing speed, attacking the knights standing before them. The commander was severely shocked as he watched the situation with wide eyes, saying to himself, "Why did Patrick leave me and go, leaving his son to fight me? Is he truly insane, or are they mocking me to this degree? I'll punish them all." All the commander's special aura power was released, and he stood shouting defiantly, "Logan, I'll eliminate you first, then eliminate your father and settle the entire battle." Logan began using his aura and advanced to attack the commander directly, saying to himself, "I've never fought a high-level knight before, and this is my chance to test my true strength. I have to get revenge on this man." The commander quickly countered Logan's attack, but he soon felt the struggle against his strikes. Confusion appeared on the commander's face as he muttered in amazement, "What's happening here? Why is this boy so strong? Wasn't he just a mid-level knight a little while ago?" The commander quickly pushed Logan away from him while confused, saying in a low voice, "Even with my injuries, I should defeat him easily, but I don't sense anything special from him. Why is he this strong?" The commander's rage boiled from within as he insisted, "I hate this bastard. I'll get rid of him now. I have to prove my real strength to everyone." He rushed with all his might toward Logan, shouting, "Die! Even if I die today, I'll make sure to kill you with me." Despite the commander's fierce attack, Logan used his incredible speed and dodged every strike, then drew his sword and began deflecting his blows easily, asking the commander mockingly, "Is this the best you've got?" The commander's anger increased, and he wondered, "If it weren't for my injury, I would have crushed this kid from the start." Then Logan released his aura and attacked with his sword, asking him once again, "Will you surrender now?" He actually managed to wound the commander in his shoulder, so the latter retreated in terror. Impossible. Then he quickly backed away, watching Logan with extreme caution, thinking to himself, "He doesn't have any obvious weak points. I have to find a way to defeat him." Suddenly he looked at Logan's sword and noticed something strange, so he exclaimed excitedly, "I found his weak point. The mana gathered in his sword is very weak." Logan noticed that the commander had discovered his weakness, and said to himself, "That bastard figured out the sword's secret. I need to increase the aura in it before it breaks." Logan raised his aura and began pumping it into his sword forcefully, while saying, "I'll make an example of him, and I'll take advantage of his recklessness." The commander started laughing, and shouted at Logan, "Finally, I know how I'll kill you. I'm enjoying fighting you now." The commander unleashed his full power and charged to attack, yelling, "I'll finish you now." But Logan anticipated his attack and struck first, so the commander sneered, "I was sure you were reckless and stupid, and you've fallen into my trap." He quickly changed the direction of his attack and tried to hit Logan, but Logan suddenly vanished from before his eyes, so the blow never connected. The commander was stunned and looked around, saying, "What's happening? Where did he go?" He searched with his eyes until he saw Logan had moved behind him, so he shouted in shock, "Impossible! I didn't know he was this fast. No, it's not that his speed increased, but I've gotten slower. I don't understand what's happening to me. Logan said to him roughly, I've played with you enough. Now it's time to get serious. Logan activated the special ability of the sword belonging to the Sword Saint. So the commander felt tremendous terror and begged him, what kind of power is this? Please, stay away from me. Don't hurt me. But Logan used his sword's first ability, Giant Sword Wisdom, and charged to attack the commander with crushing force, shouting, time for you to die. The commander tried to defend himself, but he was stunned. It's impossible for me to dodge this strike. Logan's strike reached the commander and hit him directly, dealing a blow that finished him completely, and the battlefield exploded with a massive explosion from the power of the sword and Logan's aura. Everyone, Patrick, Ronan, and everyone on the field, felt stunned and wondered trembling. What happened? Where did this terrifying explosion come from? Logan stood with his rapid breathing, finally feeling relief, and said to himself, the battle is finally over. Then he raised his voice loudly in the middle of the battlefield, calling to his soldiers and the enemy soldiers, Logan McLean has killed your commander. You have no hope of victory left. Surrender immediately or death will be your fate. The soldiers stood stunned with gaping mouths and wondered, how was our commander killed? He was an unbeatable sword master. Impossible. One of them screamed, searching for Count Siron. Where's the Count? What do we do? Whose orders do we wait for? But they never found him, until one of the knights threw down his sword and declared his surrender. So his comrade said to him in shock, why are you surrendering? He answered, because the commander is dead, and the Count fled. I won't sacrifice my life in vain. The soldiers began throwing down their weapons one after another, repeating, he's right, we have no hope after today. They began looking at Logan with admiration and enthusiasm, chanting his name and thanking him for saving them. Even the barony soldiers who had doubted his strength before, now greeted him joyfully saying, we knew you'd come back to save us, and that you're our strongest lord. In another scene, Count Siron was fleeing from the battlefield with his heart pounding with amazement, anger, and worry. He was wondering in bewilderment, what mistake did I make? I prepared 3 years for this day, enlisted other nobles, and controlled a strong knight with 100 knights. So how was my entire plan lost like this? This bastard Patrick's son is the cause of the disaster. I have to get revenge on him someday. He hurried back to his castle, and the soldiers at the gate were shocked to see him and asked, what happened in the battle, Count? Are the advancing forces heading toward us now ours? Siron was amazed and wondered, forces? What forces are you talking about? And in a moment, Logan appeared with his forces pursuing him to the castle gates, and Logan challenged Siron, shouting, do you think I'll let you escape? Impossible. Logan and his forces charged toward the castle, and he called to Siron's soldiers barricaded inside. Siron is defeated. Open the castle now and surrender immediately. The soldiers stood nervously. Some said, that's why the Count was running terrified. We really were defeated. So the guard captain approached and expressed his doubt, saying, don't believe them. They're lying to you. Prepare for battle. There are only 300 soldiers in front of us. We're the victors, and they won't be able to storm the castle. But Logan dismounted his horse and approached the castle gate and said forcefully, I don't have time to negotiate with you. The soldiers wondered, terrified, as they watched him. What's he doing now? And suddenly Logan disappeared with his lightning speed from before them, as he jumped over them and climbed to the castle wall with ease that amazed everyone. And they began saying, impossible. It's not human for someone to be able to jump this distance. Logan headed directly to the guard captain, approached him and threatened, this is your last chance. Open the castle gates immediately and surrender, or I'll kill you with my own hands now. We then shifted Siron, who had hurried back to his office, and began gathering his treasures and all the valuable things in his possession in preparation for escape. He kept muttering to himself with worry and fear, it's impossible for me to let Patrick or his son capture me. They'll get revenge on me sooner or later. At the same moment, Logan suddenly appeared and stood before him confidently and said in a cold tone, I knew that you, like rats, would start gathering your harvest to flee with it, trying to escape with your life. Count Siron froze in place, overwhelmed by bewilderment and shock, and screamed, impossible! How did you manage to breach the castle this quickly? My castle was always fortified and strong, not to be breached this easily. Logan replied coldly and firmly, from the moment I entered the castle, all the servants and guards directed me to your location. It seems you're extremely beloved as their master. They even wished for your quick death to be rid of you. Don't you realize you're nothing but a pathetic rat who will be disposed of today? Siron stood terrified and cast a desperate look at the head servant standing behind Logan, begging him in panic, attack him, protect your master and help me. But the head servant paid him no attention, completely ignored him, and turned to leave the place, leaving Siron in the height of panic, anger, and hatred. So he began screaming in rage, all these bastard servants of mine betrayed me. I swear I'll destroy them all when I get out of this situation. He turned to Logan with a tone of feigned surrender and said, you've defeated me, Logan, and I declare my surrender. I'll compensate you and your family for everything that happened. I'll even give you a piece of land to rule and amounts of money as you wish. Just must let me and my family live. This is the law of nobles." Logan laughed mockingly as he looked at him with contempt and said, "What nobles' laws do you want to talk about now? Don't you realize what you did to us? You declared war without evidence and attacked me in just one day without any preparation, and all of that against the nobles' laws you're talking about." Siran was confused and began begging him again. "It was a mistake. I'm ready to compensate you for it. Please, have mercy on me and preserve my honor as a noble. We nobles are all like you, and now I'm your prisoner. You must protect me according to our traditions." Logan said to him in a calm and decisive tone, "You're right. The McLean family has always respected nobles' laws and customs, so I'll guarantee your freedom, and I'll allow you to gather all your belongings and leave here." Siran was filled with joy and rushed to thank Logan warmly, before the latter smiled and said calmly, "That's what my father would have said, and maybe he would have let you escape despite the disaster you caused us, because he respects nobles' traditions and customs." Siran shouted at him pleadingly, "You must act like your father, Patrick. That's why all nobles respect him. You won't gain anything if you kill me now." Logan looked at the treasures Siran was gathering and saw a precious dagger made of jewels, so he picked it up and extended it to Siran, saying, "I'll allow you to escape with just this dagger." Siran was amazed and asked in wonder, "Why this dagger specifically?" Logan smiled and answered, "Because it suits you perfectly, and it will guarantee you live the rest of your life honored and rich when you sell it." Siran rejoiced again and thanked him gratefully, and prepared to leave the area, but he was soon amazed when Logan grabbed the dagger and suddenly stabbed him with it. His body convulsed from the intense pain, and he wondered as blood bled from him. "What are you doing? You promised to let me live." Logan replied steadily with his eyes gleaming with anger, "I told you that's what my father would do, but he's not a fool to leave his enemies alive to come back at him again." Siran protested desperately, "But I'm a noble. You're supposed to respect nobles' honor." Logan laughed mockingly and looked at him coldly. "You of all people talk about honor? Because of your greed, many died today in this war." Then he continued his stabs and said, "Your pathetic, pitiful life will end here, and no one will remember you after now." Logan ended his life quickly, then turned saying coldly, "Consider yourself lucky. I was planning to torture you first, because of my family's suffering in my previous life, but I don't have enough time now." He looked at his hand, wet with blood, and laughed to himself, saying, "The first disaster that struck my family passed safely, and finally I can rest a little now, and prepare to face the next disaster." Then he said loudly, "I must announce the end of the war here." He called to all those present in the castle and informed them, "An incident occurred. Count Saron committed suicide. The war is over now." Cylon arrived at that moment and asked Logan with concern, "Are you all right, Logan?" Logan answered with a brave smile, "I lived the best day of my life today. What about the castle subjugation operation?" Cylon told him, "Nothing worrying, but there's something serious I want you to see for yourself in the castle trenches." Logan was puzzled and asked, "What is this matter?" Cylon replied, "You have to see it yourself. Come now, immediately." Logan nodded in agreement. Several days passed. Logan went to check on his injured father and told him everything that happened after chasing Saron to the castle. Patrick learned that Saron had committed suicide, so he was surprised and asked his son, "Why would Saron commit suicide? He loves his life so much, it's impossible that he did it himself. Did you kill him?" Logan was shocked by the question and said, confused, "What are you talking about?" Patrick said in a stern tone, "You're a lousy liar. I knew from the first moment that you were the one who killed him." Logan admitted the truth and nodded confirmingly, "Yes, I'm the one who killed him. Now Saron's entire province is ours, and I couldn't leave him alive. He might have sought alliances with other nobles and attacked us again." Patrick showed his amazement at Logan's honesty, then smiled and said, "I expected this from you. You're a mature man today, making your own decisions and taking responsibility for them yourself." Logan was surprised by his father's attitude and said to himself, "My father has changed. Usually he would have raged and screamed at me, but now he accepted it with amazing speed." Patrick said to him with a proud smile, "I wanted to thank you for what you did. You saved the family and secured victory for us. I'm proud of you, my son." And Logan's heart filled with happiness and gratitude in response to his father's words. Then Patrick said to him in a formal tone, "Actually, I wanted to tell you that I've decided to officially appoint you as heir. You'll be the one who rules the province after me." Logan was surprised by his father's decision and asked hesitantly if he was sure about it. Patrick answered confidently, "Of course, you're the only one suitable for this position." Logan felt proud of his father's decision, but said calmly, "I thank you for your trust in me, and this is a great honor, but I'll actually refuse your offer. I don't want to be your successor." Shock covered Patrick's face, and he asked with great bewilderment, "What are you doing, Logan? Why are you refusing the family succession? If you're worried about your reputation has improved now after you gave us victory in this war." Logan replied, "That's not the problem. The McLean family is a family of knights, and my brother Ronan is a greater knight than me, and more suitable for this title." His father asked, "In what way is he more suitable than you?" Logan said, "Ronan became an aura user at 14, meaning he beat me by 5 years. He'll become a legend in the kingdom someday, and the family banner will grow greater with him." him, but Patrick answered, even if that's true, being a strong swordsman doesn't mean he'll be a good family leader. Ronan still lacks the experience you've gained. Logan smiled and said, your words might be true, but Ronan will become an experienced knight in the future and will earn titles as the strongest knight on the entire continent. The family needs Ronan, not me, he added in a sincere tone. And if I tried to be the family leader, I'd be a burden on it. My plans would become slow and full of restrictions and responsibilities. Now I can move freely and quickly without any obstacles. Then he looked at his father and said, I want to leave this position to my brother Ronan, and if you don't agree with my decision, we can wait until he reaches the official succession age, and then you'll see for yourself if he's more suitable to rule the province. Patrick was silent for a moment in amazement, then said, I never imagined you'd think this rationally someday. We'll wait 5 years until Ronan comes of age, and I'll choose myself between you two who will succeed me in leading the family. Logan thanked his father for his understanding and said, thank you for respecting my wish. Patrick smiled and said, you must be rewarded for what you did in this war. We'll return to the barony with the spoils of victory, and you can have as much money as you want from them. Logan said, I don't need money. There are other prizes that are better for me. Patrick answered, smiling, you shall have what you asked for. I'll fulfill any wish you choose. The McLean family forces returned to the barony, and all its residents were waiting for them to congratulate them on the great victory. The atmosphere filled with admiration and pride, and people talked among themselves. The war was ended in just one day. It's a great achievement for the barony. One of them asked his companion in amazement, how did they manage to overcome the Tseron family forces when they're much stronger than them? His companion answered, it seems you haven't heard the rumors. The person who ended the entire war was Logan with just his forces. The second man said in bewilderment, but I used to hear that Logan was a failure. The first said enthusiastically, no, he led mercenary forces and attacked with weapons never before seen in any war. I heard Logan took down a high-level knight with master rank easily, so he became very strong. Those present were surprised by what they heard and said, we didn't know Logan was this strong. We thought he was just a despicable scoundrel. Another said, even the rumors about his love for eating beast meat turned out to be wrong. He's a righteous and noble man, and he saved us from Count Tseron. These words reached Logan's ears, who felt embarrassed and reviewed himself. What are these people saying? Don't they know I feel uncomfortable with too much praise? Ronan asked him how he felt now that everyone loved and praised him. So Logan said, I don't feel comfortable. I actually hate praise. Ronan smiled and said, they're happy because you saved them. You should smile at them and return their love and admiration. Logan said in amazement, I've never smiled like this before. The residents kept calling out to Logan and thanking him for saving them, so he gave them a strange smile. They were terrified and said, why is he laughing in that scary way? Maybe he was planning to kill us after all. It seems the previous rumors were true. Logan felt disappointed. Why do they hate me again? Ronan said to him while laughing. Because your smile is terrifying and that's natural. Patrick was watching what was happening and saw how people went back to fearing Logan because of his laugh. He decided to intervene, so he raised his voice saying, let everyone hail the war hero Logan, savior of the barony. We'll hold a great celebration in his honor today. The people rejoiced and chanted Logan's name, and the barony's celebration of him increased. In the evening, after the party ended, Logan went out walking around the castle grounds, thinking and saying, I don't deserve all this celebration after the war. These people are very scary. Suddenly, Mariana and her son Ronan appeared, and she started screaming at Logan, asking him about his plans. Ronan intervened to calm her down and asked her to stop. So Mariana turned to Logan and said, why did you refuse the family succession? What are your real reasons? If you think you can deceive your father, you'll never deceive me. Ronan tried to calm her down and apologized to Logan. Don't take her behavior personally. She's been affected by everything her family went through in recent days. Logan smiled and said, it's fine. I'm not sad because of her talk. Actually, despite Mariana's old hatred for me, today she's lost all her status and power after her family's betrayal of us. She no longer represents any threat to me. She knows now that she's lost all her value in the family after everything that happened, and maybe this is the weakest time she's going through in her life, and she might accept a sincere apology from me for what I did before. He looked at Mariana and said apologetically, I owe you an apology, mother. I should have apologized to you long ago. I know my behavior in past years wasn't appropriate. It was due to feelings of hatred and jealousy toward Ronan. Mariana was surprised and asked Ronan, did you hear what he said? He finally admitted that he used to hate you and was jealous of you. Ronan said soothingly, it's okay, mother, calm down. He's also going through a difficult time now. Logan said, don't worry, Ronan, and I want you to hear my apology too, because I owe both of you a big apology. Ronan was surprised and asked, what do you mean? Logan said, I used to apologize to you repeatedly in the past, without telling you the real reason. The cowardice and accumulated hatred in my heart throughout the past years prevented me from saying the truth frankly. Now I admit that I used to hate you intensely in the past. Ronan was surprised and said, what are you saying? How can you hate your brother? Logan said, I used to hide my failure behind that feeling and cover my weakness by hating you, but today, never again. I regret all those years. words. I apologize to you frankly and leave you free to accept my apology or reject it. Ronan remained silent from shock and couldn't reply immediately, while Logan thought, I was sure I couldn't cover my mistakes with good deeds alone, but I had to tell you the truth no matter what it cost. Ronan finally said, calm down, Logan. It never happened that I hated you. I always treated you with love and believed you would change over time. Logan was surprised and thanked him warmly. The apology was harder than I expected, but it always deserved to be said. He then spoke with Mariana, saying, I want you to trust me for the first time, and know that I love my brother Ronan and intended to leave the family inheritance to him. I hope you won't hate me for the rest of your life. I don't hate you. Mariana was surprised by his words and agreed to forgive him, showing regret for her previous behavior. Logan was happy about this, and felt he had repaired his relationship with his family, which was what he had always aspired to from the beginning. The next day, Logan went with Mar to a mountainous area in the barony. Mar asked in amazement, where are we going? We haven't even rested from the war's exhaustion yet. Logan laughed and said, stop complaining. You're the one who got the most rest among us. Mar said warily, I'm afraid you're gonna drag me into another long mission. You're such an exploitative person. Logan reassured him, don't worry, I knew you'd actually enjoy this mission. Logan told Mar with a faint, confident smile that the mission he was about to assign him would be extremely easy and wouldn't require much effort from him. Mar kept staring at him with eyes full of amazement and confusion, trying to figure out from his facial features or tone whether he was joking or being serious, but he found nothing in Logan's features except cold seriousness. So his curiosity increased, and signs of bewilderment appeared on his face as he asked about his meaning. When they continued walking until they reached the beginning of the mountain, Logan stood on a rocky edge, looking at the vast horizon ahead of him before turning to Mar and telling him that he intended to establish a huge gold mine in this exact spot, and that this would be the new mission he would entrust to him with complete confidence in his abilities. Mar found it strange and couldn't easily comprehend it, as the scale of risk in the project seemed enormous to him, especially with his knowledge of the harsh and abandoned nature of those mountains. In a previous scene, time took us back to the moment Logan stood before his father Patrick in the vast judgment hall with cold stone walls, where Logan presented his request to obtain a mountainous area to develop for himself, which made Patrick look at him with genuine bewilderment. He asked him which mountainous area he meant specifically, so Logan replied calmly and deliberately that the area he wanted was located on the borders of the old Saron County. The bewilderment became more obvious on Patrick's face, so he confirmed to him that this area was uninhabited and had no value whatsoever. Even if he tried to reclaim it, he wouldn't profit anything worth mentioning from it, and expressed his surprise at his insistence on such a matter, not realizing what was going on in his son's mind. Logan smiled confidently and said that his father didn't know the secret of this area, for in the heart of those mountains were quantities of gold so dense that no one knew about them and exceeded everything the kingdom had combined. Logan calmly explained that the war that took place between them and the Saron family wasn't clear in its causes to everyone at first, but the truth emerged after a full year when Count Saron discovered the massive gold mines buried in those rocks, and therefore he tried to control this land and extract all the gold for himself to strengthen his power and influence. He continued while remembering with a painful inner voice that this enormous wealth gave the Saron family in his previous life an influence that almost matched the authority of a major duchy, as their wealth and influence flourished incomparably until Saron finally met his end at the hands of Ronan, who spent the rest of his life after the war drowning in thoughts of revenge, without caring about anything else. In another time transition, shortly after the end of the war, when the battlefields had calmed down, Selen came to Logan and asked him to accompany him to the basement below the castle, where he led him through dark stone corridors until they reached a massive wooden door, which they opened to discover a number of people imprisoned inside the basement, their faces tired and their eyes filled with fear and anticipation. These people were screaming, begging Logan to save them from their ordeal, confirming that they were innocent and that Count Saron had brought them to examine the mountain rocks and extract gold, and after they successfully completed the work, he enslaved them and imprisoned them to exploit their skills for himself, only when he took control of the area. Logan stood contemplating them with looks, mixing amazement and pity, and said sarcastically that he knew Saron was stupid and cruel, but he hadn't expected his greed to reach the point of imprisoning skilled mining engineers in such a shameful way to keep them for himself. One of the engineers asked Logan if he was really angry for their sake, but Logan smiled and began to laugh suddenly and told them he wasn't angry at all, but rather felt happy that Saron had saved him the trouble of searching for professional mining engineers, and now they were under his control without any any effort or additional cost. The engineers were stunned for a moment, and one of them said while looking at Logan with great caution that Logan scared him more than Saran himself. Logan replied that he realized that everything that happened in the last war was nothing but the first step in a long series of challenges, and that his family faced a sea of upcoming conflicts and struggles, for after the small victory a bigger disaster awaited him, and he hinted at the coming imperial invasion that would threaten the kingdom and all noble families without exception. He clarified that the great invasion would begin after exactly 1 year, and the kingdom would descend into spirals of conflicts and fragmentation due to the death of King Samuel Grandia, as the three princes would fight over the throne using all means, which would weaken everyone, and when they thought peace had returned, the empire and its forces would be waiting for them to destroy everything that remained of their exhausted kingdom. Logan continued his explanation, saying that his family in his past life didn't support any side in the throne war, and chose to remain neutral, but that was a grave mistake. However, this time he intended to exploit the succession war period to restore to his family everything it had lost of properties and territories, and to regain his sovereignty over the entire western region, and he wondered deep down if he would have enough strength in the future to lead the course of events, and prevent the kingdom's destruction with wisdom and strength, or would have to look for other solutions that might lead him to more dangerous choices. At that moment, Mar entered and asked him what exactly he intended to do, and about the identity of the strangers he had gathered in the basement. Logan looked at him smiling and realized he had gotten lost in dreams of the future, to the point that he forgot the presence of the engineers, and that thinking about the family's survival was important but shouldn't make him act. Strangely, he realized he had to hide his knowledge of the mountain's future from everyone, or they would think he was crazy, or perhaps believe he had supernatural ability to predict what hadn't happened yet. He decided to fund the mine's construction with his own money, without anyone participating or knowing about it, so this mountain would later be a huge funding source for his family, on which he would build their power and influence. He turned to the engineers and told them he believed there were very many gold veins in the mountain before them, and that they had to start digging and prepare a complete mine to extract gold. Amazement appeared on everyone's faces, so Mar said, as if he had gotten used to Logan's strange decisions, that he was sure he would make a strange request that would be almost impossible, being accustomed to his successive surprises. As for Engineer Benny, he clarified that he initially agreed to explore the mine only because Logan offered him a bigger wage than what he was getting with Siren, but the idea of building a complete mine with their limited strength hadn't occurred to him at all, so he asked Logan seriously if he was really sure that the gold existed. Logan told him he was completely sure and aware of what he was saying, so Benny asked fearfully, "How did you know?" Logan said he had seen the gold in the mountain rocks himself. Signs of astonishment remained hanging in the eyes of the engineers, who couldn't understand how the implementation would work with this small number of men, until Logan said that the digging operation would remain secret and would be limited to only the 6 present, and signs of terror appeared on everyone as they imagined the difficulty of the task. Benny objected, saying it was impossible to build a successful gold mine with 6 people, even if Mar alone had the strength of 3 or 4 men, but he would never be enough. Then he turned to Mar, begging him to convince Logan to back down from this idea to preserve their lives. As for Mar, he said in strong language that he was ready to sacrifice his sleep, and sleep only 2 hours a day, so that Logan's dream would come true, even if it was at the expense of his health and effort. So Benny accused him of complete madness. Logan kept laughing and following their conversation, then asked about the cost of building the mine, so Benny told him that the final cost wouldn't be clear before they knew the actual size of gold present in the place, but he estimated that the project might cost them 5 million coins in total, and Mar added that they needed a full year to build the mine, and more than 6 months before they could do the first gold mining operation, and yet everyone felt mysterious enthusiasm and tension about the scale of the upcoming adventure. Logan felt amazed when he realized that building the mine would consume all this amount of resources, time, and efforts, but deep down he was certain that investing in this mountain was worth all this trouble, and he automatically returned to remembering that Saron in his previous life gained enormous power through this mine, until he became like the most powerful nobles in the kingdom. Logan told himself that he now had the ability to postpone the mine development process until after the war, and decided to focus currently on the business of selling beast meat and selling medicines extracted from them to increase his family's wealth and prepare well for the coming conflicts. Logan wondered to himself what he should do. Should he start developing the mine immediately or focus on the medicine project? He kept thinking for a long time. Then it occurred to him that there was a better idea, so he reminded himself that beast meat was suitable for making rare and extremely valuable medicines that exceeded gold itself in value, and he realized that waiting was no longer useful, and that he had to develop the medicine himself and launch it in the markets before the battles broke out. A week later, we're still in McLean territory, where we see Rick buried in work inside the southern section of the barony. He was groaning from exhaustion and constantly grumbling that Logan was forcing him to manufacture weird and suspicious medicines in his opinion. Logan arrives at that moment to tell him that the medicine in his hands isn't suspicious, but rather a powerful antibiotic, and asks him about the location of the meat extracted from the monsters. Rick answered that they had stored it in the main warehouse, so Logan asked him to bring it out immediately because they would apply that antibiotic to it to completely remove the traces of monster toxins from it. Rick showed signs of shock and tension, saying he couldn't believe Logan insisted on conducting that experiment himself, and when Logan reassured him that he would help him with that task, he looked terrified and kept repeating that he would die from this matter, and that he had never seen in his life a smell like that deadly odor that dominated the warehouse atmosphere. Logan commented sarcastically that he was used to dealing with things much worse than this, but as soon as he entered the warehouse, he actually felt the power of the smell and asked himself how Rick managed to live like this, and immediately knew that his words were spot on. No normal human could endure that scene. Logan used his aura to stop his sense of smell and felt relief, ordering Rick to move quickly without being affected by anything. Rick was puzzled and asked him how he did it, so he told him he shut off his sense of smell using his own mana. After that, the two began experiments to manufacture a new drug from monster meat with the antibiotic added to it, and Logan told Rick that this medicine should become their next product, and he would personally manufacture and distribute it commercially. Rick rejected the idea at first and said he wouldn't work on such a risky project, but Logan offered him 100 gold coins weekly, so Rick gave in and said he was ready to carry out what he asked of him. And Logan said the most important step now was to test the medicine on lab rats first, so Rick asked him about the actual function of the drug. Logan explained that this treatment was considered a powerful mixture of vitamins and natural stimulants that enhance body strength and improve the performance of anyone who took it. Rick said he knew the perfect person to be the first to try the medicine, and that was the financial manager Dwayne, who had recently become severely exhausted and needed any help. The next day, Logan summoned the financial manager to his office, and as soon as Dwayne entered the office and found it empty, he became confused and asked where Logan had gone. Then the latter appeared suddenly behind him and told him he had been waiting for him to thank him for his great efforts in the recent period. Dwayne admitted he felt exhausted and that the war had weighed heavily on him, but Logan told him he relied on him greatly and that without his efforts, the barony would have collapsed financially. He added that all the employees now were demanding money from him and explained that he had finally begun to realize how much officials like Dwayne suffered. Dwayne seemed amazed by Logan's awareness of his suffering and thanked him for being the first member of the Monclean family to notice these problems. Then Logan casually said he was testing a new medicine on him that would eliminate fatigue and give him unusual energy. Dwayne tried to escape from the office, but Logan stopped him and gave him one pill of the medicine and asked him to thank him later. Dwayne asked about the medicine's name, so Logan said it was a treatment for exhaustion invented by a scientist named Philip, and his guarantee of its effectiveness was very high, in his words, even though the reality was that the medicine was still under trial, and this was the first time it was being tested on someone. He also told him it was extremely expensive, and he would give him the pill for free in appreciation of his efforts as one of his loyal followers. And the next day, Dwayne returned to Logan enthusiastically, saying he wanted to buy the largest quantity of the fatigue treatment as he had felt tremendous improvement after trying it. Even Rick himself noticed that he had become unusually energetic and asked him about the reason. Logan announced the success of the medicine finally and told Dwayne he would give him larger quantities if he cooperated with him in implementing his future plans, stipulating that he provide obedience to him from now on. Dwayne agreed and bowed before him, declaring his loyalty. Rick looked at them suspiciously and realized that the conversation between them was strange, and even expressed his fear about the content of the discussion. Logan continued secretly distributing the medicine to those close to him before launching it in public markets to make sure there were no side effects. He summoned his uncle Hayne the next day and told him he had heard he was exhausted since the war days. Hayne asked him in wonder about the source of this information, so Logan told him he had brought him a special treatment for rest and gave him one of the pills. Hayne felt his body gradually recovering from exhaustion and thanked him warmly. Logan reassured him and told him he would arrange a full day of rest for him after getting permission from his father. Hayne was surprised by this kind gesture and promised to be one of his most loyal followers. Logan repeated the medicine experiment on a third person, and this time it was Patrick himself. After his father thanked him and praised his achievement in the field of medicine, Logan felt overwhelming happiness and left him talking to himself that the medicine had passed its most important tests and that it was time to launch it throughout the kingdom at a high price price that would bring them enormous wealth. He ordered Rick to prepare to double the production process and stop complaining, while Rick objected humorously that he was the most tired person and deserved more than anyone to try the medicine. Logan answered him with contempt that Rick didn't deserve it and left him, moving away while saying he would increase production volume and Rick shouldn't talk to him again until he bathed because his smell had become unbearable. With this, Logan felt satisfied after taking the first steps in his plan for wealth and his family's rise again. That night, Logan was sitting in his room amid the castle's silence, communicating with Philip and asking him to prepare to send him the new medicine and start distributing it through his dummy company, explaining to him that their plan would be to sell each pill for a full 100 gold coins. Philip looked stunned by the required figure and answered reservedly that this number was too large and that the capital's nobles weren't stupid enough to easily pay this amount for a new medicine. Logan replied with a confident smile and reassured Philip that all the capital's nobles would buy the medicine without hesitation, telling him that the maker of this medicine in his previous life had become the richest man in the entire continent and no one could compete with him. Logan added that they would deliberately keep production limited so they could quietly raise prices. Philip commented with annoyance and asked him how news of the medicine would spread among the nobles since no one knew anything about it in the first place. Logan replied that they needed a famous noble to try the medicine himself and spread news about it later. Philip showed his understanding and suggested going to the royal party in the capital. Logan was surprised and asked him why he should go to such a party when he had basically only attended one party before in his life, and no one really wanted to invite him. Philip told him they had to go to that specific party, as it was the right place to build a strong network of relationships with major nobles from different parts of the kingdom, and to facilitate promoting the medicine later without raising suspicions about them. He explained to him that his participation was necessary because the party was exclusively for nobles, and others weren't allowed to attend. Logan asked if they could sell the medicine directly at the party, but Philip answered that this was impossible because any mistake could destroy their family's reputation, and that dealing had to be done very carefully. Logan agreed, then told Philip he would send him a spy in the capital whom he knew well, wanting to get a lot of information from him regarding the attending nobles. Philip was amazed and asked him about the reason for needing those details, so Logan answered clearly that he should carry out what he said, and he would explain the details to him later when they reached the capital. Philip finally agreed, but he felt worried deep down and said that Logan would get him involved in matters beyond his capabilities. A week passed until Logan arrived with Philip at the royal capital Jaren, and Philip was wondering throughout the journey how Logan had managed to get his family's permission to attend the party as their representative, and he was certain he hadn't told them about the medicine-selling business. Logan laughed, saying he had indeed lied to his family, and told them he came to establish a network of relationships with the rest of the noble families. He knew that transporting medicines would be difficult without the servants' help, but he managed to smuggle them without his father knowing anything. In fact, his father had come to trust him more than ever, and the time had come to weaken that trust again. Philip asked in surprise about the reason for traveling without any guards, as he was considered the heir of a noble family and shouldn't go out to a place like this without adequate protection. Logan answered that he couldn't stand traveling with any guard, and that his freedom to move like this guaranteed him greater ability to manage his secret trade without obstacles. Philip added that Logan's personal servant, Rick, hadn't accompanied them on the trip and asked him about the reason. Logan explained that Rick was very tired and exhausted due to continuous work in manufacturing the medicine, and pointed out that Rick, both in the past and present, had always been the most sacrificing for him, whether in his health or money, until he had become like a family member to him more than just a servant. Logan's words took on a tone of sadness when he mentioned that Rick was suffering a lot these days. He'd even told him 2 days ago that the maids had started mocking him because of the smell from making medicine out of monster meat. Even the maid he'd planned to propose to had mocked his smell and refused to marry him. Logan felt like he owed Rick big time, so he decided to reward him in a way that matched his sacrifices. Philip asked what decision he'd made, and Logan enthusiastically told him that the new medicine they'd made together would be called Rick's Ampules, to honor Rick's efforts and sacrifices. Philip was amazed and said maybe this guy was either mentally unstable or would drive him crazy too, expressing hope that their partnership would end without disasters. Logan continued his discussions with Philip about the information he'd gathered on the capital's nobles. He explained they needed to focus first on nobles suffering from chronic fatigue, since testing the medicine on them would give them widespread fame among the aristocratic class. Philip said if Logan's goal was just money, they shouldn't deal with the stupid informant he'd relied on for gathering information, since he was asking for 900 gold coins for each list of nobles with fatigue. Logan replied that he knew the price price was steep, but he was sure that informant was the best in the kingdom for weird information, and asked if he'd gotten all the required data. Philip said they'd paid a huge amount, and there'd be no room for error. He'd asked that informant to compile a list of nobles who didn't have children, so they could exploit that point for marketing. Then he'd asked him to narrow down nobles known for their extreme loyalty to their families and wives, and finally nobles who were often seen in markets or public places, looking for food or treatments for their chronic exhaustion. Logan praised the heavens that the lists with these details would be comprehensive, and they'd be able to choose those with influence and power first, to be the face for promoting the medicine. He enthusiastically praised Philip's dedication to following instructions. Philip thanked him and told him his loyalty increased whenever he realized Logan had survived the war against Count Saron, saying he'd truly panicked about his fate back then. Logan was surprised and laughed, saying he didn't realize Philip cared about him. Philip replied that he didn't mean that. His biggest concern had been the quantity of monster meat Logan had left with him, and if he died, he would have left him with a debt he'd never pay off. Logan got angry and hit him with the papers, saying he should care about his master first, not the debt. He gave him the papers and asked him to start reading them so they could choose together the first target from the nobles nominated to test the medicine. His face showed signs of determination and cunning at the same time, as he knew that the success of the first deal would make a big name for himself in the world of nobles. Philip spent all night reviewing the lists in his hands, carefully searching for a suitable name until he stopped at a certain name that seemed to catch his attention. He told Logan he might have found the perfect target. Logan took the list from him to check for himself, and as soon as he read the name, he was amazed, saying it was really a strange choice, but he'd try dealing with him. And the next day, Logan prepared and went himself to the party palace in the royal capital, where everyone was waiting for the huge party dedicated to nobles to begin. Logan approached someone called Count Devas and introduced himself, saying he was Count MacLean's son and had come specifically to meet and talk with him. Suddenly, the attendees couldn't help but laugh when they saw Logan's strange clothes, unusual for a gathering like this party. One of them said he looked like the son of a clown family, or maybe suffered from obvious mental deficiency. Logan didn't care about their words and pretended it didn't bother him, blaming Philip for his choice of clothes. He justified that he'd never attended an aristocratic party before, and Philip's clothes could only be this usual stupidity of his. But he added to himself that all of this didn't matter because his main goal wasn't to attract their attention or win their admiration, but to target Count Devas himself. Logan knew that Count Devas was an extremely important figure. He'd been married for 20 years without being blessed with an heir to carry the family name. Logan remembered well from his previous life how Devas was known for a tragic story. He'd been the center of a thunderous scandal that carved his name into every noble's memory in the kingdom when his wife fought with him, publicly during a public party, and humiliated him in front of everyone. She exposed him by declaring she'd cheated on him with another man because he'd neglected her for his work in kingdom affairs. From the sheer humiliation and pressure, Devas couldn't bear this defamation, and his life ended tragically. That's why Logan saw that succeeding in winning over Devas would make him gradually control the capital's most powerful nobles. Logan stood before Devas and told him he'd come for a business deal unlike any seen before. Devas was surprised and asked about the nature of the merchandise he was talking about, saying the capital was teeming with luxury goods, and he didn't think for a moment that MacLean's son could have anything better. Sarcastic comments poured in from those surrounding Logan, wondering what kind of trade this clown was promoting. But Logan maintained his composure and confidently told Devas that his merchandise was so unique that he wouldn't have bothered coming personally if it wasn't worth trying. He told him he had a medicine that was nothing short of miraculous because it treated severe fatigue and chronic exhaustion, and was ideal especially for men who lived their lives serving the state like Devas himself. Despite his surprise, anger appeared on Devas's face, and he shouted at Logan asking how he dared try to sell his merchandise in the middle of the party like a cheap beggar. The attendees were shocked by Logan's behavior, wondering how a noble could do something so rude. But Devas couldn't help but laugh and said loudly that Logan would have to flee from the embarrassment he'd put himself in because a noble like him couldn't bear this humiliation in front of people. Logan said to himself that he was sure the Count didn't know anything about him and that he had no dignity to begin with. Then he turned to him and told him he wouldn't trade with him publicly, but had come to offer him a free sample as a basis for building trust later. Logan pulled out a box of Rick's ampoules and gave it to him, saying the price of one box was 100 gold coins, but he'd give it to him for free as a courtesy for future deals between them. Devas took the box with amazement and promised to try it later. Just 2 days later, Devas's head servant came to Logan's shop in the capital and told him him the Count had sent him to buy more of the miraculous medicine. Logan was hit with a wave of laughter and was certain they'd succeeded in catching their first customer in the capital. After Philip completed the sale and sold him 10 boxes at once for 10,000 gold coins, he couldn't believe the pleasure of success and hurried to inform Logan, saying he'd never imagined selling that many boxes in such a short time. Logan reassured him and told him they needed to collect much bigger profits, and that the shop rent alone in the center of the capital cost them 10,000 coins monthly. Philip confirmed he knew that, and he'd chosen the shop location specifically to fill it with ambitious nobles, tempt them with crowds, and stick in their minds that the merchandise was rare, so they'd seek it out confident of its quality. Logan said he'd go to other nobles' parties now to promote the medicine. Philip was surprised, saying he hadn't stopped for a moment since they'd arrived in the capital, and this was putting huge pressure on him. But Logan insisted on continuing work, saying Deva's was just the beginning, and his bigger goal was exploiting the largest number of nobles and collecting huge profits. A whole week passed, during which the shop gained incredible reputation, and Ben, Devis's head servant, came to the shop again. He couldn't believe his master was requesting a new batch of medicine, despite having spent a huge amount on it in recent days. But the real surprise happened when he saw a long line stretching in front of the shop. Ben was amazed, saying to himself that he knew most of these people. They were all head servants of the kingdom's prominent nobles. He feared they'd notice him, so he decided to finish his purchases quickly. At that moment, Philip came out in front of the crowds and announced to everyone that the medicine quantity had run out for the day, and everyone had to return the next day to get it. Everyone was shocked, and one of the servants asked him if it was possible for the medicine to run out this quickly despite high production. Philip answered that Rick's ampoules were in high demand, which is why quantities weren't enough to cover demand. The servants urgently demanded he sell them the medicine at any price, saying their masters might kill them if they returned without the medicine. One of the nobles happened to pass by that area and saw the big line in front of Logan's shop. He thought the shop was selling something truly rare and asked his servant about it, certain there was a luxury item behind this strange crowding. Logan was watching all this from afar, thinking cunningly that their actual medicine production was large, but he was deliberately reducing the market supply to increase the product price over time, considering his plan was going perfectly. The next day, Philip repeated the same scene and announced the stock was sold out early amid the servants' protests, confirming to them that the intense demand was the reason for the low supply and prices had to rise. Everyone had no choice but to submit to his demands, so they agreed to the new prices, hoping to get the medicine before others, regardless of cost. Philip returned to Logan with a face mixed with astonishment and excitement, telling him that today they had made profits exceeding what they'd collected over 4 consecutive months, and that Logan's plan, which seemed impossible at first, had paid off quickly, so much so that they could now amass a huge fortune in a short time. Logan smiled with satisfaction, then burst out laughing, saying this group of nobles was truly stupid, and that he would triple the price today, yet he'd still find sales continuously rising. Philip felt overwhelming joy and knocked on Ambition's door with his opinion, saying this was due to the smart, well-crafted plan. But Logan reminded him that he wasn't alone in creating the plan. He was his partner in all the details, and promised him starting next month he'd give him 1% of the profits as a reward for his effort and dedication. Philip was greatly surprised and showed deep gratitude, confirming he would work his hardest to elevate this project. While they were talking, absorbed in this success, there was a mysterious person watching their store closely from a distance, staring at the door and telling himself that an opportunity like this comes only once. That same day, Logan met with Mar to discuss the gold mine situation, and as soon as Mar disclosed the mine's estimated annual yield, Logan was stunned, as Mar confirmed that expected returns would be hundreds of thousands of gold coins annually, based on precise analysis conducted by engineers after discovering the abundance of gold veins and their extension underground. Mar seemed confident in his analysis, while Logan saw the dream of great wealth before his eyes, and told himself he was truly on the verge of becoming the richest man on the continent within a few years from now. But he returned to listening to Mar, saying that the real challenge lay in developing the mine, and that it would need 5 million gold coins. With that, Logan was reassured, and answered Mar not to worry, and that he would gather the money as quickly as possible, asking him to prepare the team and equipment, confirming that the gold would reach them soon, and jokingly warning him not to overwork or harm the engineers for any reason. At night, Logan was walking alone through the capital's streets, thinking about the plan to gather funding for the mine, trying to calculate the mine's huge development cost, 5 million complete gold coins, and found he could get 4.5 million from selling Rick's vials each month, meaning that after just 2 months, he would have all the required capital. He resolved to sell the remaining batch he had, 900 doses, then return to Rick to receive a new batch from him, to immediately launch into developing the mine and securing his coming fortune. While Logan was absorbed in thought, he was surprised by strange movement at his store, so he rushed quickly expecting a theft attempt and decided not to allow any thief to steal the fruit of his labor. He opened the store door forcefully to find the place empty with no trace of any thief, but his sharp instinct told him the person hadn't left yet but was hiding in the shadows using his skill. Suddenly he felt movement near him, so he turned attacking with his aura sword, but his hand caught only air. Logan was amazed by his opponent's skill and felt tremendous energy behind him, so he raised his eyes to the store's ceiling to find a person standing there watching him with strange steadiness. Logan jumped toward the ceiling challengingly and told this person he wouldn't allow him to rob his store and prepared himself for a new attack using his aura sword, but the thief dodged the strike easily and let out a calm laugh indicating his supreme confidence. Logan was amazed by this power and asked his opponent about his identity, but the man didn't utter a word, instead disappearing with lightning speed from the place as if he hadn't been there. And then Logan realized that this opponent wasn't ordinary and that his power exceeded most of the kingdom's fighters' abilities, as he wasn't even able to track his traces. While the stranger departed, he left behind only a small piece of cloth from his robe, so Logan wondered if he could identify him through it in the future. With morning's arrival, Philip hurried to meet Logan, and as soon as he learned what happened, astonishment appeared on him, and he asked if it was possible that a strong aura user was the one who broke into the store. Logan confirmed the matter was more serious than that. Not just an aura user, but at least a sword master of superior level, and mentioned that his power and aura pressure exceeded what he'd seen from strong sword masters. Philip was puzzled and said, if he's this powerful, why would he need to steal from a small store? People like these get money, ranks, and assistance easily from the kingdom. Logan asked him what was actually stolen, and said he checked everything and didn't notice any missing money or valuable belongings, but he noticed only 2 doses of Rick's vials were missing. Philip was surprised and said then the man stole only those doses and perhaps had a personal need for the medicine, and asked Logan about the identity of powerful figures in the kingdom who would need Rick's vials. Logan summoned his memory and asked Philip if their informant had given them a list of names of aura users among the potential nobles. Philip answered negatively and said the informant requested an additional amount and Logan hadn't given him the money, then suddenly remembered the first piece of information they got from the informant about a powerful sword master living in the capital who has no heir and suffers from constant severe fatigue. Logan said it was likely he was the thief who broke into the store. Here the narrative shifts to the character of Duke Felix Esperanza, who was watching a group of children playing in the city streets while feelings of sadness and loneliness overwhelmed him. His wife noticed his distraction, so she asked him what was occupying him, and he didn't pay her attention. He replied in a calm voice that he was contemplating the capital's beauty today, so she answered sarcastically that this was the most obvious lie she'd heard in her life, and clarified that she saw he was watching the children with their families, saying this was what was missing from their life only. Felix tried to evade and repeated his saying that he was looking at the city scene and nothing more, then asked her to return as they were late, and there were important meetings waiting for him at the palace. His wife smiled and apologized to him, and whispered that she loved him, and that the fertility problem would never make her hate him. So he answered that he knew that, and she was the most precious thing he owned, and in his heart passed a reel of memories when he was younger and a violent fighter in the Civil War, where he sustained a severe injury that made him unable to have children, and despite that he continued fighting valiantly to preserve the kingdom. When years passed and the effects of the Civil War battles began showing on him, Duke Esperanza started feeling the weight of the real problem in his life. He was no longer a young man who could be dispensed with, but had become required to find an heir to succeed him in the dukedom and preserve his family name, and he began realizing that all his glories and noble history would perish upon his death if he left the dukedom without an heir. After the war ended, Esperanza went to face Countess Vanessa, his fiancée, and told her the truth about his injury and disability, believing she would end the engagement without hesitation. But he was surprised when she refused that with insistence, telling him that her love exceeded everything, and she would stay by his side as long as she lived. So he was amazed by Vanessa's great sacrifice that he hadn't expected or even dreamed of. We return after that to the present, where the Duke's assistant stands, telling him that the family meeting will be held tomorrow, and asks if he will attend. The Duke answers negatively, expressing that family members don't stop pressuring him every time because of the heir issue. His assistant changes the conversation's focus to tell him about what's rumored in the capital about a new medicine produced by a young man called Logan, said to be capable of treating fatigue and even internal physical injuries, and is even called the scientific miracle these days. But the Duke replies sarcastically that all of that is nonsense nonsense and prevalent, lies aimed only at commercial promotion, even though he had heard of many swindlers, except this time all the capital's nobles are talking seriously about the medicine's effectiveness. Esperanza answers that he thanks his assistant for his kind feelings, but insists that the medicine never affected him at all despite actually trying it, and that his injury still exists unchanged. He adds that he feels guilty because he had to steal from the store himself to get the medicine, and sees that merely going out to rob a store at his age and position is a catastrophe, and even blames himself for losing control because of his crisis with the air matter. Then he asks his assistant Louis to tell the rest of his family branches that he won't meet them this year, and departs quietly toward the Duke's palace gate. On the other side, we see Logan standing before the outer gate facing the guard who orders him to leave, confirming that the Duke doesn't receive anyone except by prior appointment request. But Logan insists confidently that they will allow him to enter once the Duke hears his name, and begs the guard to convey a personal message from him. We return for a few moments to the past,